Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, Mack Pack. It's great to be back with you again for another episode of our program. This is On the Move with Mack Worley. I am, of course, Mack Worley. And this is the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. We have a lot of stuff in store for you today. Our featured topics, first and foremost, we're going to be talking to Tyler Truitt once again. You all may be familiar with him. He was on a episode in the not too long ago on our program talking about his recent legal battle over his private property rights. Apparently, the local government is telling him how he can use his property, and they're being kind of shady. And, we've already talked about this issue before with him, and he's going to give us an update on his legal battle and tell us what's going on now. Then after that, me and Mark, our intern, we're going to be taking the isidewith.com political quiz. So you guys can feel free to join us on there and share your results, and, post it either on our event link or message us at On The Move Show on Twitter. You can message us on facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Let us know your results. Let us know where you are on the iSide quiz. I'm interested to hear what where the audience list falls in on this, and I'll share your results online as well or on the air. Also, we got several other stuff that we're going to get to here, several other topics we're going to get to in the other hours of the program, probably the second or third hour, if we do a third hour today. And we're going to cover the wage gap myth. We're going to expose how this is in fact a myth in detail. And then I want to move to a topic that we haven't had time to the past few episodes to cover, which is privatization of space exploration, specifically pertaining to Virgin Galactic. I want to talk about this. Also, there's two other events that just recently happened that we have to take note of. Ohio's marijuana legalization efforts, issues 2 and 3, that we talked about last week on the program. I want to give you guys an update from that election and give you some of my insights onto what happened and perhaps why it happened. Also, I would be remiss if I did not mention the fact that Bevin was elected governor of Kentucky. So we're going to get into that as well. And we have several other articles in the news that we can get to as well. So anyway, if you guys would like to get in contact with the program, lots of ways you can do that. Please feel free to give us a call. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that's 360-450-5625. You can message us at facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow or get us at Twitter or on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and get our housekeeping stuff out of the way. By the way, if you're listening now, we broadcast every Sunday at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's every Sunday. So you can find us at our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's our main hub. That's where we broadcast most of our stuff from. Or you can get us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. Subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. Okay, now that the housekeeping's done, we're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we should have Tyler Truitt on the line, and he's going to give us a breakdown of what's going on in his legal battle with the local government over his property rights. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back. All right, so right now we are joined by Tyler Truitt. Hey, Tyler, are you there?
I'm here, Mac.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us, giving us an update on what's going on with your case. And secondly, as usual, thank you for your service. I very much appreciate anyone who's willing to sign that blank check and serve their country. So first and foremost, thanks for that. And could you please just give us an update? What's going on? I know you recently were in court over this. So what happened?
Well, we had appealed our case from the municipal court to circuit court, and we went to a jury trial, and I was found guilty in the jury trial. And basically what happened was that a lot of the evidence we wanted to submit and a lot of the arguments we wanted to use and stuff, the judge wouldn't allow us to enter into evidence. The prosecutor had asked beforehand that we be restricted to evidence which had only to do with whether or not the fact that our house is here and whether or not it's a trailer, which is in violation of the city's zoning ordinance. And so all the arguments that I wanted to use about due process and the constitutionality of the ordinance and stuff like that, we weren't allowed to use. Basically, to sum it up, the judge said something. I'm not going to allow any evidence or any testimony to be heard that might induce jury nullification. So, I mean, that pretty much tells you how that went. So, in the jury instructions, they wouldn't allow us to use our jury instructions, or we had a set of instructions we wanted to submit to the jury, but they wouldn't allow us to. And so, basically, the jury was just down to saying, hey, is our house here or not? And is it in violation of the ordinance? And they had pretty much already told them, the way that they wanted them to interpret the ordinance. And, we admittedly, our house is here, but we were trying to make the argument that it's not actually a trailer as they describe in the zoning ordinance. It's a manufactured home, and the fact that we're not actually hurting anyone by being here, because they always talk about this ordinance is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Well, how?
Right?
If we're
Tyler,
not.
For the benefit of the audience here, because I remember exactly what happened as far as the ordinance that was in question and what it was actually telling you that you couldn't do with your private property. But can you go back in time a little bit for the audience and just explain to them, first of all, what is the conflict here, and then I would also appreciate if you would talk about them trying to condemn the trailer as well, and the reasons for that, and and explain like your off the grid power setup and stuff.
Okay, so I had moved the house here. It's a manufactured home, or a mobile home, as a lot of people call, and I've got a little bit over 2 acres of property inside the city limits of Huntsville. It's a secluded area, and you really can't see our house from the road. And when I moved here, I wanted to have off-grid utilities set up and off-grid power and water. So I have solar panels set up that I use for my electricity, and we collect our rainwater, and we utilize composting to dispose of our waste. So basically, the conflict started when the city came in and said, well, you're not allowed to have your house here because there's a city ordinance. And if you read through the zoning ordinance, it's actually in miscellaneous. So it applies to all zones within the city of Huntsville. And it says that no trailers shall be parked within the city, whether or not such trailer is occupied. So basically they're attempting to say that our house, is a trailer and falls under this ordinance, which I had read the zoning ordinance that pertains to our specific zoning, which is residential 2B, and it doesn't say anything about this. But as I told you, this is miscellaneous, so you would have to go through and find this. And so they started sending us notices saying, hey, we're going to, you need to move your house within 7 days or else, basically. And I said, no, I mean, what? Because I asked them, I said, well, what is the purpose of this ordinance? And no one could tell me. And I viewed it to be, if they can't give you a legitimate reason as to how it protects the public health, safety, and welfare, then it's an arbitrary and capricious ordinance. So I said, well, if you can't give me a reason for why this is a valid ordinance, I'm going to consider it to be unconstitutional, and I'll just fight you in court over that. So a few months later, or about a month or so after that, they came out and they came with a zoning enforcement guy from the city, and they came with I guess what's a police officer. They call them a CRO, community relations officer, but they weren't in uniforms. They came out, they pulled their guns on us, held us, basically detained us in our own yard to issue us a citation. And then after they did that, I said, well, you did what you came out here to do, because that was for violating the zoning ordinance. And they said, no, we're gonna condemn this house, and you guys are gonna be leaving here today, or else you're gonna be arrested. So they called another guy from community development to come out, and they actually condemned the house. I said, well, condemned for what? And he said, it's because you don't have city utilities. It's considered to be unsafe living conditions. And so they threatened to arrest us if we didn't leave, which we haven't left. We're still living here, I guess, under the threat of violence or being locked up by these people. But that's kind of where we're at right now. And we went to trial for the zoning ordinance, and of course we're found guilty. So now what we're looking at trying to do is actually file a civil action against the city to fight the ordinance directly and try to have it deemed to be unconstitutional because of the way in which they're enforcing it.
Yes, sir. So as far as the article that you linked me, this is on AL.com. The article is titled, Marine Veteran Loses Court Fight But Vows Not to Move Home. The article is written by Lee Roop. And for those of you out there,
that's correct.
I just want to read this section of it, because I think this is pretty poignant here. Witnesses testified that the dead-end Hood Road was a site of prostitution and drug use in the past, but neighbor Mary Hornick testified the presence of Truitt and his dogs has improved the safety of the neighborhood. So you were talking about how this is arbitrary and capricious. Not only can they not tell you why you cannot have this, first of all, on your property that you own, correct? You bought this land. It's yours, right?
Oh, yes. We own it 100%, paid for in cash, both the house and the property.
Okay, so
the land.
This is your land, your private property, and you should be able to, firstly, as long as you're not hurting anyone or depriving someone of their rights, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want to do with your own property. But secondly, the state, city, they can't even tell you what you're doing, how it is hurting anyone, and more importantly, what you're actually doing. You being there, your mere presence has actually improved the safety of the neighborhood, which is incredible. That they would want to actually stop what you're doing, which is actually improving the neighborhood. It blows my mind. So what's next, Tyler?
Well, what's next? For right now, I'm trying to appeal the. Not necessarily the court decision as far as the trial went, but we're trying to appeal the sentencing, because in the sentencing, the city prosecutor basically just asked for injunctive relief, that they wanted the court to order me to move the house. So the judge ordered us to move our house within 14 days. And they gave me a sentence of 10 days in the county jail plus some fines, but they suspended the sentence on the condition that the house is supposed to be moved in the next 14 days, which it's not going to be. There's really, even if I wanted to, there's no way that you can, pick up a whole house and move it within 14 days. That's a huge process. And, also, I mean, where do they expect us to go? Because this is my home. This is where I live.
Yeah.
So basically what they're saying is either be homeless or go to jail. Is pretty much what they're saying. So it's my opinion that if you look under Alabama state law, there's maximum fines and sentences that they can issue for a municipal ordinance violation, and this is purely a violation. It's a non-misdemeanor, non-felony violation. So basically, it amounts to a speeding ticket.
Yeah. But
they're trying to kick me out of my home because of that. And so I'm trying to appeal that decision because that injunctive relief or equitable relief is not something that is prescribed as a valid punishment under state law. So I think they overstepped their bounds with that. I think the appropriate action would have been for them to go to civil court. Civil court is usually where equitable relief can be obtained, not in criminal court, which is basically what we were in. So I'm trying to appeal that, and then also we're planning on go ahead and file a civil suit ourselves against the city to try to have their ordinance declared unconstitutional. Because, like I said, no one's been able to tell me any reason or purpose for this ordinance. Because if I'm on my own property and our house is completely out of view from the road, our neighbors all say that they want us here, what reason could they possibly have for kicking us out? Who is the victim here, and what damages, are they suffering by us being here?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, besides yourself, I mean, you're being victimized right now, simply because you're in violation of a law that is not hurting anyone. What you're doing is not hurting anyone. And firstly, you have the right to do what you want with your property. And I don't see any issue here. I really wish you the best of luck, Tyler. So I got to ask, do you have like a GoFundMe or some kind of donation fund that people can go to help support you?
We do have a GoFundMe set up. One of my friends just recently, they started a new GoFundMe page for us for this step of the fight. It's Tyler Truitt's Fight for Liberty. And, I'm a very independent person by nature. That's kind of why I like this type of lifestyle, just living off the grid, meeting all my own needs and stuff. So it's a hard thing for me to do, to ask people for help. But we really do need everyone's help on this, if you can possibly help by donating. Because we are trying to take this fight as far as we can, and things are getting quite expensive in the legal system. So, but anyway, that's what our next step is going to be. We're trying to file this appeal and stuff and take this to the civil court. So that's probably going to be an expensive process. So we need people's help as much as we possibly can get.
So that was Tyler Truitt Fight for Liberty, and that's the GoFundMe account, right?
Yes, that's the GoFundMe page.
Can you send me a link after we get off this call, and I'll share that around on all my social media so our listeners can go check that out if they're willing to give and able. I'm sure you would appreciate it, and it's this is one of those things that it may seem like a small issue to most people out there. Like, why are we highlighting just one situation with the city government? This is a perfect example of one person being singled out and just getting picked on, and this is your house. This is where you live. I mean, you are literally choosing between going financially broke trying to move this house in order to comply with this, or possibly going broke with all the other stuff that the fees and all the fines and stuff that they throw on you, possibly some jail time involved. I mean, who knows what they could try to do. And it's just, it's wrong that they're singling you out like this. And I feel for you, man. If there's anything I can do, let me know. And definitely you have my full support. If you need me to get any word out about anything, you got some more updates, feel free to give us a call. Okay, man?
Oh, thank you so much for your help, Mac, and thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and best of luck, man. I seriously, I'll be thinking about you with this process. So make sure you keep us updated.
All right, I certainly will.
All right. Take it easy, Tyler.
Okay, bye.
Alrighty, guys. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to start into the isidewith.com political quiz. I'm going to be bringing on Mark, our intern, and him and I, we're going to go through, we're going to talk about the issues and, basically just fill this thing out on the air. I'm sure this is going to be great entertainment. Yeah, us filling out a political quiz on the air. But, I think as we talk about some of these issues, I'm looking forward to seeing where Mark and I disagree, and then also seeing where we stand as far as the political quiz is concerned. I've done this before in the past, and I think I was like mostly libertarian as far as it was concerned. But again, I really want to hear where you guys stand on this. So that website is isidewith.com, and you can fill that out while we're filling it out and share your results. I'm really interested to hear what you guys had as far as your scores. So anyway, we'll be right back after this break, guys. Don't go anywhere.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back. So at this point, we're going to be bringing our intern, Mark Delphine, on the line. Hey, Mark, are you there? Mark, are you there?
I sure am. Here I am.
Oh, there we go.
Got to get it off mute there. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right. So, are you at the isidewith.com webpage?
I sure am. I'm almost done here. I filled it out a while back.
Yeah.
And I remember who I sided with and the percentage of it, but now I'm doing the more expanded version of it, which is a little interesting. I don't remember seeing this really expanded version, so I'm taking a look at that now.
I see. So, as far as okay, let's just go ahead and just start the rundown here of this quiz, guys. You can take this with us as well. isidewith.com, and this is going to be, very action-packed entertainment for the next little bit here. Survey taking live on the air. So, all right. Let's see. I don't know what yours is. If yours is listed the same as mine. Did you start out with the social issues first?
Yeah, I did. I started. Yeah, so the social issues and then went all the way down to the science issue. There's only one science issue, but went from economic to social. But I answered every one of the questions and I expanded every one of them too, because they're quite interesting, especially the expanded answers.
Yeah, and also like they got the add your own stance, which it's interesting because I'm sure that's kind of weird to factor in somehow, like the when you're typing your own stance? Like, for example, the first question here, your stance on abortion. They really come out the gate swinging here. So they're asking the tough questions. Your stance on abortion. Are you pro-choice? Are you pro-life? Ban after the first trimester? Pro-life but allow in cases of rape, incest, or danger of the mother's health? Pro-choice, I don't agree with it, but it's not my right or the government to ban abortion. Pro-choice, but providing birth control, sex education, and social services could help reduce the number of abortions or add your own stance. So I don't really fit into either one of these. What's your take on this, Mark? What did you pick?
I think this is one of the few that I just said one answer. Like, I didn't expand on it. I just said pro-choice, and I'm not. I guess I think abortion's wrong, but then I'm also the kind of person that's like, I don't really know how much I consider it to be a person up until, maybe the third trimester. I mean, there's just so much ambiguity, and I really don't think I'm ever going to have kids, so I don't know that this is even an issue that, I know it's so divisive, but I don't really care that much. I know that sounds horrible, but I don't know, but what do you think? I mean, You've got a wife. I mean, are you guys gonna have kids? I mean, is this kind of an issue that you think about a lot?
This is an issue that I think about, but it's, we're going to have kids one day. We definitely plan on it. But, as far as my take on abortion is concerned, I tend to think that, lean on the side of pro-life rather than pro-choice, because if we're talking about individual rights are concerned, at what point is this baby, is this fetus alive? At what point does this fetus inside of a woman become another entity? Is it when it can survive outside the womb? Is it when is it when it's out? Is that when it's alive? When does life begin? And this is all arbitrary as far as I'm concerned. Nobody really knows. We can't, we can speculate and say, well, the Bible says this, or the government says this, or some scientist says this, but we don't really know. So, as far as I'm concerned, I kind of err on the side of safety as far as I'm concerned, and I would say that, at minimum, if the baby can survive outside the womb, then you probably shouldn't be killing it. And when you start making that guess, right, or that kind of rationale, you start saying that, if it survives outside the womb, you should, once it's to that age, you should not kill it. Then that changes too, because as technology advances, we start to see that, babies are living longer or earlier outside of the womb. So, it's complicated, because you really start admitting at some point that is an arbitrary number. That's not necessarily when life begins. That's just when we are able to keep that life alive. So, as technology gets further and further along, we could be, a few week-old fetus could survive outside the womb if we had the right technology. So, again, this is all arbitrary. So
it is. It's interesting. Here's the thing. A, I don't think the Bible says anything about abortion. But B, I think it's sort of the idea that when you say survive outside of the womb, I don't know that. We're human beings are one of the few species that can't survive at all within just the first few years without some additional help. A baby itself, when you're saying survive outside of the womb, you just take an infant, it's not going to be able to survive without some additional help. And so that's where I look at it and say, okay, is this just a life that would die on its own if you did not support it in some way? And so that's where I think this becomes. We could spend the entire 2-3 hours of the show on just this.
I tell you what, I'm just going to put ban after first trimester. That's what I'm going to put. Ban after first trimester on this, and we can move on, because as far as I'm concerned, this is one of those complicated issues that I'm not perfectly comfortable saying an outright ban on it yet. I don't know if I'll ever get there. I guess it just depends on how you look at it and what your perspective is. As far as I'm concerned, though, I think that life is sacred and we should try to protect it as much as possible. But at the same time, I'm not really sure. I don't really know. I don't really know where I stand on this issue, which is why I'm just going to go ahead and pick ban after the first trimester. So what did you pick? You picked pro-choice?
I did, but honestly, I think that this is a really valid thing. Not only is this I mean, the reason why this is number one as far as this question, in my opinion, and the reason why I think that this is the most politically divisive issue, hands down. I mean, you can talk about illegal immigration, or you can talk about, gay marriage, or you can talk about any other, issue politically, but hands down, this is the most divisive. So I think we might want to spend just a little bit of time on it, because I think it deals with a lot of the other issues. If we may, I mean, if you really want to move on, it's your show, but I'm just saying, I think it's a really good one to talk about, because it talks about with so much of social issues, economic issues, and political issues of our time. Because, I mean, first and foremost, when you're talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that is, when people have the right to that, and when we say people, when we say human beings, when we say citizens, is an unborn fetus a citizen? I mean, when you're talking about an individual who
honestly,
kills pregnant
when you're using the word citizen, though, I don't really so much care about citizen. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it alive? Is it life?
Right. Is it a human being?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a human being. So that, as far as, say, if it is, when you're talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it has the right to life. Now, when you're talking about the woman who is carrying that life, this is her property. I mean, this is her, it's in her body. So it is.
Yeah, see, this makes that same correlation between
of happiness, right?
This is too similar of a conversation to the slavery and how those human beings were those people's property and whatnot. And when you start degrading what human life is and saying that this life is subhuman and this life is human, now we're being selective about what is alive and what is not, what's worthy of protecting and what's not. It's all arbitrary. You're just making things up and defining things. It's a social construct. The left talks about social constructs all the time. This is one hell of a social construct when you're talking about this is a subhuman and this is a human. So I mean, I would be careful using that kind of terminology. That's just me, because once you start defining what lives are worthy of protection and which ones aren't, I think you start steering into dangerous territory.
Mac, this is awesome. We finally found an issue that we can really disagree about. This is really good, I think. I mean, honestly, and again, if you want to move on, that's cool, but I just think, talking about this, I was reading this book called Freakonomics, and
I know
what
where you're going.
Talking about is...
I read this. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, because they were talking about why did the crime rate go down so far, and I mean, a lot of it was like, was it a government program, or was it this, or was it that? And really what they talked about is the reason being is because of Roe v. Wade. And I'm not saying that we should, mandate abortions because of the fact that we want the crime rate to go down. But what I am saying is that we're talking about an unwanted life. Whereas, when they say like, a man should have an equal choice in the matter or versus a woman, I totally disagree with that. I mean, you might disagree with me on that, but this is a woman who's carrying this life to term. And because it's in her body, that makes a huge difference as opposed to saying that this is somebody who is, this is a life that can sustain itself on its own. Because basically what you're requiring the woman to do then is to care for and to protect something that once it's born, most people are not interested in a social program to care for it and to protect it.
So
you're getting into so many different levels of government here, and where does the government intervene? Does the government say you cannot do this? Whereas now it's basically saying that a woman doesn't have the freedom to deal with her own body the way that she chooses.
Okay, so,
and I mean, I think
this is not so much an individual. This is not so much an individual rights issue when it comes to her own body, because first of all, we as libertarians, as people who believe in personal responsibility, accept that you do have to take some responsibility for your actions. Now, in cases of rape or incest and things along those lines, that individual is not necessarily responsible for that act. But if you were irresponsible and you got pregnant because you didn't take precautions, or you didn't wait till marriage, or whatever the reason being for it is, and you got pregnant, it's not like you just woke up one day and you were immaculate conception all of a sudden and you're pregnant. You did something. So the whole idea that a mother, that just one person can determine the value of a human life, that human life is its value is given before it's born. It's given by just one individual. I have an issue with that. Now, I'm not saying that I don't know where I stand on this entire issue, but I consider myself kind of out of the conversation when it comes to this, because it's complicated, and I understand that people have a right to do with what they want with their body, but my question is, at what point does your body and what you choose to do with your body conflict with another individual's rights? I have an issue with the idea that if it's unwanted, if it's an unwanted life, then you can get rid of it. If that's the case, then we could just kill all of the criminals. As far as the freakonomics is concerned, it's better to have killed all these people than for them to be on the street committing crimes. I disagree with that logic. I would find that fundamentally flawed. That if that was how you have a better society, then let's just kill everyone who commits crimes and not even have prisons. Let's just,
I don't know. That's a bit of an extreme in my opinion. But actually, if you think about it, I remember the week after I came back from China in 2012, there was a woman who, it was recorded, and a man, her husband, went to Hong Kong to set it on YouTube, because they don't have YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, anything like that in China, and it's because of a lack of freedom. And when you're dealing with that, when you're talking about how big the government can get and what it can do as far as controlling a woman or a man's life, they just lifted the ban on the one birth thing. But the fact that this woman couldn't afford her second birth, the government of China required her, forced her to have an abortion. And so when you're talking about, the extremes of it, killing criminals because of the fact that we want a better society, when you're talking about the idea of how a government can exercise its control over its own people, this is an extreme of the opposite. And where I start to get a little bit rattled is where the government can say what you can or cannot do with your own body, regardless of whether or not there's a human life in it. And I think that that's why the liberty that a woman has in her own body overrides the life that cannot sustain itself outside of a human body.
So, but would you say that after it actually is able to sustain itself outside the human body, that that should not be legal?
Well, sure. I don't believe in infanticide. I don't believe in being able to kill a human being. Once it's born.
So the difference is on its own. You don't think that if we have medical technology that can keep that baby alive after it leaves the body, that should count? It's only after there are no machines hooked up to it and it can survive.
Well, then that's not on its own. It's based on a machine.
So would you consider? I got a question for you then. Would you consider a baby that is born, all right, and it can't survive without machines? Would you consider it murder if somebody was to smother it with a pillow?
Sure, it's smothering it with a pillow.
Okay, well then what's the difference? You're killing something on a table, as opposed to killing something in a body. It's the same. It's the same thing. If it's murder on a table, it would be the same in a body. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, and it would also be. I think it might even be. Would it be murder if there was neglect where they didn't feed? Would that be murder, or would that be just gross neglect? Or you see how complicated this gets.
I agree. Again, I don't fall on any. I don't have a dog in this fight as far as I'm concerned. And where I stand, I understand this is complicated, and honestly, I don't like thinking about this issue. I don't like this issue at all. I try to avoid this.
Yeah, it's not. It's never fun.
Yeah, because it ends up taking me down a logical path that it makes you not want to. In my opinion, I don't want to be pro-choice or pro-life. I just don't want to. I just don't want to deal with this. But when it's staring you in the face, you kind of have to call things for what they are, as far as I'm concerned. But let's move on. We spent way too much time on this issue here. We're never going to get through this quiz. Okay, so. The next one here, by the way, I put on my stance on abortion, ban after first trimester. You said pro-choice, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next question. Do you support the legalization of same-sex marriage? What did you say, Mark?
I said yes, but allow churches the right to refuse gay marriage ceremonies. I mean, the government should not be involved in a church, but they should not deny the right for two individuals to enter into a contract as long as they're adults and they're consenting.
So mine was take the government out of marriage and instead make it a religious decision. And, therefore it's obviously got constitutional protection. And I just don't like the whole idea of the government trying to tell you who you can and cannot marry. I understand that the roots of this entire institution of marriage through government has been established through racism. First of all, it was established, as you've pointed out before on our show, and I've mentioned tons of times in the past, this comes from the Jim Crow South, where they were trying to prevent black men from marrying white women. And I think that is immoral. I don't think that the government should have anything to do with it. But let's move on here. Let's see. Sir, should a business based on religious beliefs be able to deny service to a customer? Where do you stand?
I said yes, any business should be allowed to deny service for any reason. I mean, as long as it's a private business. If it deals with public, like if you're a public service, no. But as a private business, anybody should be able to deny any service for any reason.
Yep, I did the same thing. Yeah, completely the same thing. I don't think that anybody should be forced to do any kind of business with anyone that they don't want to, for whatever reason, if they're racist or not. I think that if we really want to deal with that, if we don't like what if a business owner is being racist or bigoted against a particular type of person, then we can boycott them and just not show them our support. And in fact, I would prefer that as opposed to them being under the radar racist. I want them to be able to express how racist they are. That way, I know who they are and I can choose not to support them.
Yeah, which is why that one, that option, yes, but the owner must post a sign stating their beliefs. Their beliefs will be posted. We have a free press, well, for the most part, and the press will exploit them. You can't say that a government should come in and say you must post a sign. I mean, that's ridiculous. But that's why the last answer is the best, in my opinion.
And I agree too. I don't know. I don't like the whole idea of there being a law where you have to post your beliefs in order to refuse it. To me, that seems a little. A Star of David being forced for you to wear on your chest so people know that you're a Jew. I don't like that idea. But again, I agree with you as far as this. Yes, any business should be able to deny service for any reason, as far as I'm concerned. So, all right, next question: should the government require health insurance companies to provide free birth control? And
no way.
so let's see.
I looked at it. Yes, let the insurance companies decide.
You said no. Let the insurance companies decide instead of the government mandate.
That's what I said. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that one too. Here, no. The government should sponsor abstinence education programs instead. Yeah, right. I don't want that.
Increase some more government.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, it should be covered like any other prescription. No, I don't.
And that's interesting. That one option, the government should sponsor abstinence education programs. There was a county in Texas that just had something like that, Mac, that they were an abstinence-only county or school or something like that, and they had the biggest outbreak of chlamydia that Texas has seen in a long time. So those programs don't work. I mean, sex is a natural thing, and people have it, but you should not require an insurance company to provide something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like the idea of the government getting involved with that. If you keep the government streamlined, as I've said before, the government should be extremely small. You should not see it very much, and people worry that all these companies are going to go out of control and be acting, immorally. But the best check on companies is first of all an informed citizenry and the free market controls that they have on them. So if a company's acting immorally, we can choose not to do business with that company, and if they're providing a service that's in demand, other companies who are moral will be springing up to make some money off of the deals. And, especially if you have a company that's trying to make a monopoly or something along those lines, that other companies will come in and provide competition to this and try to get in on it. And what that does is lower prices. I think that the least government involved in the process is going to be better for the consumer.
Well, that's absolutely right, and that's the big problem, the reason why we have such high insurance premiums. I mean, when you're dealing with the fact that insurance companies can't compete over state lines, people use insurance for basically an oil change and tire rotation versus a big accident. I mean, you're dealing with, the government is the primary reason why insurance costs go up, not insurance companies and their greed, whatever you'd call greed to be. So.
Agreed, yeah. And I don't understand this whole I actually had a conversation not too long ago with a lefty who was saying, that they agreed with me on everything that I'm saying, except they just want to increase the federal Leviathan by increasing Obamacare to cut, and they completely agreed with socialized medicine and things like that. And I was like, look, why in the world would you want to put the government between you and your doctor, between you and the services that you're getting, between you and your insurance company, between you and the choices of your insurance company? They limit all of your choices, and really you're not getting the service that you want as good as you could possibly get because the government's in the way. They are a stumbling block for you to have to get around. But I digress. Let's move to the next question here. Should the U.S. remove references to God from currency, federal buildings, national monuments, and other aspects of government? The answers were yes, no. No, religion is an important aspect of America's heritage. No, as long as there are no references to specific religions, a clear separation of church and state exists. Yes, but leave existing references and only remove future references. Yes, it creates a bias against religions that do not believe in God. So what did you pick on this one?
I don't even care at all about this one, but I think I put no as long as there are no references to specific religions. God to me is a kind of a universal thing where people can infer what they want to about it. But then again, I was caught between no as long as there are no references to specific religions, and yes, but leave existing references and only remove future references. Again, this is another one that I don't really care about at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, if people are bitching about that, then they've got too much time on their hands, in my opinion. But yeah.
So
but usually that's an atheist problem, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah. So me being agnostic, I'm not atheist. I have a background in religion. I come from a Christian background. I picked no. Religion is an important aspect of America's heritage. I don't like the whole idea of trying to whitewash our history, and that to me is what this is. It's the PC crowd trying not to offend people. Look, this country was established on religious freedom. I mean, that was why people came here. The entire state of Pennsylvania was colonized for that purpose, especially. So, it's something that needs to stay out there because it's part of our heritage. I don't want to whitewash history. So, all right.
Well, that's why I put yes, but leave existing references. Keep the history, but actually, I put the no as long as there are no references. But I was caught between that and the yes, but leave existing references because of the fact that, we do need to have some semblance of history. We shouldn't, whitewash it like you say, but for the future, I don't even think it has any place. But then again, it's not a big issue for me.
Same here. Yeah, it's not a huge issue to me, but for me, I like the history behind it, and I don't think that we should start taking it out. Especially, can you imagine if the PC crowd is getting us to remove why people came to America in the first place because they don't want to offend anybody. As you start giving an inch, they take a mile, and I don't think this is an area that we should even compromise on. Why does it even matter? Especially if you're not saying, there is a state religion. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to say God, I'm not offended by saying God. I don't necessarily subscribe to any particular faith, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't offend me. If you want to, use your religious beliefs or whatever, however you want, that doesn't affect me. Now, if they want to build a monument to God using taxpayer money, now I have a problem with that because not everyone believes in that. And that's a gross waste of taxpayer funds.
Yeah, it's not the proper role of government at all. And
exactly.
That's why I'm saying, even like taking it off of there is because it's like the government has no, it shouldn't even be wasting the ink for something like that. It should be saving its pennies. But like I said, it's not a battle that I would wage.
Exactly, and I don't even want to hire employees to go around taking God references off of our money and our buildings and monuments and things like that. That's a waste of money too. I just don't think it's important. So let's move to the next one here. It's should the federal government allow the death penalty? I want to hear this from you. I already have my opinion on this. What do you think, Mark? Actually, first let's go over the answers real quick. It was yes, no, no. Life in prison is a harsher sentence. No, too many people are innocently convicted. Yes, but only in certain circumstances in which a heinous crime has been committed and there is irrefutable evidence, or yes, but allow the victim's family to decide the punishment. So,
I almost wanted to add my own stance, only to combine the two first no's. One, no, not at all. The government kills people who kill people to show that killing people is wrong. It's stupid. It's bad. It's a dumb penalty. It's not a deterrent. It is, in fact, anyway, my case was in between. No, life in prison is a harsher sentence. No, too many people are innocently convicted. But I picked the first one. Life in prison is a harsher sentence because even if you are life in prison, then you're not going to be innocently killed. They're not going to kill the innocent.
Yeah. So my answer was no, too many people are innocently convicted. So, there are actual, documented instances where we have put to death individuals who were completely innocent of the crime that they were convicted of. So, for me, if the government, I agree with your argument as far as, somebody kills somebody, so that's immoral. But the idea of using the government to kill that person, then it lowers your moral standards again. That this is I think that, in terms of life is one of the most sacred commodities that we have. So we need to protect it at all costs, and also not lower our moral standards by taking it unnecessarily. If you have an opportunity to lock a violent criminal up away for the rest of their life, okay, I don't have any problem with that. Segregating them from society, I have no issue with that. And I don't think that person should ever return if they're ever likely to commit the same kind of crime or be a threat to society again. I don't think they should ever be out on our streets. So, the idea of killing somebody when they may possibly be innocent, because, again, people make mistakes. Governments make mistakes all the time. So, I don't trust
and prosecutors. I mean, look at the prosecutors. I mean, they're judged and they win based on the number of cases they win, not based on the justice they serve. And that's a big distinction. And the fact that, the death penalty is so heavily skewed in a race issue and a poverty issue, and the death penalty is the only irrevocable penalty. I mean, you can never reverse that penalty. Mm-hmm. So the idea here is, in addition to that, I think it's an emotional penalty, and we should be logical about how we penalize our citizens or how we penalize people. So, I mean, this is an idea that people are like an eye for an eye, and they, I would want somebody to die because of this. Yeah, but, you got to handle this issue logically in the fact that you're right. Forensic evidence could suggest otherwise. There's, people a lot of times are convicted in the court of opinion well before they're ever convicted in an actual court of law. And, a lot of times juries are not unbiased. You're rarely judged by a jury of your peers. Lawyers pick jurors based on how easily they can manipulate them, not on how intelligent they are. And so, I mean, there's so much corruption. Even though our legal system is the best, I wouldn't trade it for any country in the world, I still wouldn't ever allow for the death penalty. Even if this happened to one of my family members, I would want that person to rot in prison, because I tell you, would you rather sit in a chair and have somebody, or on a table, and have somebody pump some poison into your veins as you fall asleep? Or would you rather spend the rest of your miserable life in a cell thinking about what you've done, probably being raped by Bubba, your cellmate, So,
well, until you added that last part in there, I would...
it's such a worse penalty to live the rest of your life in a cell than just to go to sleep and die, you know what I mean? I just think that's that's a way worse penalty.
Yeah, I would agree. For me, I look at it from the governmental side. The idea that first of all, our government can take life of its own citizens. I think that's one of the scariest kind of concepts of where the government has the ability to kill one of its citizens. I dislike that. I don't like the whole concept of executing their own citizens and determining which lives are they're allowed to kill and which ones they're not, especially when you consider that the purpose of this government, the entire purpose of its creation, was to protect life, liberty, and property, and not to take it. So I think that it goes against the initial concept of the creation of our government to begin with. So anyway, let's move forward here. Let's go to the next one. Should terminally ill patients be allowed to end their lives via assisted suicide? The answers are yes, no, yes, but only if there's zero chance for recovery, yes, but only after a psychological examination to prove they are in a sound mental state, no, but they should be able to refuse artificial life support. Where do you stand, Mark?
Yes. I just think the government has no business in this whatsoever, in my opinion. Stay out of it. They should not be handling anything to do with somebody wanting to take their own life. That's not the business of the government, in my opinion. State, locally, federally, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want the government involved in this process, so I selected yes, but I was torn between yes and yes, but only after a psychological examination to prove that they're in a sound mental state. Now, I think that should be done by the doctor if the doctor is going to assist a suicide. I don't like the idea of somebody just walking into a doctor's office who's mental and maybe going through some stuff and then killing themselves when they didn't have anything wrong with them. Now, again, that's just because I think that life is sacred. But at the same time, I don't want the government involved in that process. And I also think that that should be an issue left to the doctor for them to determine whether or not the person that they're providing this service, quote unquote, for is actually is somebody who's logical and capable of making sound decisions. But because it doesn't specify whether or not that's a doctor's choice or the government's choice, I went ahead and just selected yes on this. So
yeah, I think the moment that you allow the government to make any decision in this, it reminds me of those old mental wars where people were just committed to insane asylums because of how the government looked at human beings and said, we're going to determine your fate. That's why I say the government has no business in this. Although I did not put any qualifiers on it, I said no, just unequivocally no. I mean, yes. I mean, I meant like they should be able to allow. Yeah, sorry. I mean, they should be allowed to do anything. The government shouldn't have anything to do with it whatsoever.
Okay, so next question. Should the federal government allow states to fly the Confederate flag? The answers are yes, no, it's a symbol of racial hatred. Yes, each state has a right to display whichever flag they choose. What'd you pick?
I don't like this question at all. I feel like I would be called out if I said what I really said, but I said yes, each state has the right to display whatever flag they choose. I think it's, this is another one where I don't really care at all, but I do think the Confederate flag, flags are symbols, by every stretch of any definition. Otherwise, it's just a cloth. That's why I care about flag burning. But to me, it's the idea that, it is a symbol, and it is a symbol of, a time when, things were not good. Not even a racist thing. It was just, I said yes. They should. But I don't like the Confederate flag is not a flag I would ever fly, in my opinion.
Same here. I personally, I have no particular interest in the Confederate flag, but I think that each state has a right to display whatever flag that they choose. So I picked the same answer. Let's go ahead, and we have a few questions here on the next section here. Let's try to plow through these. These are environmental issues. Let's go through these quick, and then we'll cut to a commercial break and get back with the rest of this here. By the way, if you guys are listening on the 405media.com, we simulcast over there for the first hour, so you're going to miss the rest of the show. If you want to pick up the rest of the show, we have it available on the archive on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow, or you can continue listening streaming live on our website, OnTheMoveShow.com, for the second and possibly third hour, depending on how long this goes. But anyway, so let's go to the environmental issues. Mark here. Should the government increase environmental regulations to prevent global warming?
No.
Same here.
I did say provide incentives for alternative energy.
Yeah.
I'm all for incentives. I'm all for tax credits. I'm all for that. I know we pollute. Things are not, the way, business as usual. I mean, you're coming from a very, I think your state is a pretty heavily coal mining state. And I realize it's a big industry. I realize there's a lot of jobs. I also do realize that it is a pollutant, and it's not, we got to be smarter about how we do treat our environment. I'm not saying that humans are causing all the climate to change. So what I am saying
you said it
I
is
think
a
we
pollutant.
need to be smarter.
What specifically is a pollutant that you're referring to?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about coal and not only how it's mined and how, sure, people have the right to work for whatever they want to, but it's not, how that stuff is mined and how it's, how it's emitted into the environment in terms of how it affects our breathing, how it affects, just life in general. I think we can be smarter about and more efficient about how we produce our energy. That being said, I think we should provide incentives for that, such as tax credits. But
go ahead.
I wouldn't. Again, I'm not saying that the government should ever come in and shut down a coal plant. I'm not saying that a government should ever, the government is the biggest polluter there is. So for the government to come in and say, being the fox that's guarding the hen house is ridiculous and hypocritical.
So what I said. I just said no, and I don't want them to. I don't want the government to provide any kind of incentives either, because what that is the government artificially picking winners and losers, and they're propping up ideas that they think may be winning ideas or good ideas, but there's no better mechanism to prop up good ideas than the free market, and the free market will provide that. And the more that the government's in the way of people, either through picking winners and losers, artificially stimulating and propping up failing industries that don't need their help. If it's a really good idea, it will survive on its own. If it has a high demand, I want to actually talk specifically for 1 second here about how many ideas that have been crushed underneath the weight of the government regulations. We would already have energy independence if we didn't have the government in our way, stopping small businesses, innovators from creating stuff. I was watching a documentary last night. It was Billions and Change. You can actually check it out yourself. It's billionsandchange.com. This billionaire, he's the guy who made 5-Hour Energy Drink. He's going through and he's trying to actually innovate and create things that will change lives in energy, in water, and in health. And he's created these like crazy inventions that are awesome. Like one of these inventions, for example, is a bicycle powered generator, basically. So it's called free electricity or free electric or something like that. And you pedal the bike for an hour, and you can power a home for 24 hours with this. And there's no waste that's produced, no byproducts. The only thing that happens as a result of this is you get stronger and healthier, and you have a powered home. These are the kind of inventions that we would already have if the government wasn't in our way, if the government wasn't constantly trying to pick winners and losers and constantly make it harder for the little guys. I would completely disagree with them providing incentives for alternative energy. Instead, I would recommend that they let the free market determine what wins and what doesn't.
Mac, that's a really good point, and I think that you might have just changed my mind. I mean, not only because I saw this movie, Who Killed the Electric Car, and it's interesting how, when we talk about crony capitalism or fascism or corporatism, which is all kind of the same thing, you're dealing with a situation that is so important that the government is stifling creativity and innovation because a lot of money is involved in paying these politicians to stifle it. I mean, politicians and the government don't make these kinds of decisions without some sort of incentive. I mean, that's where free economics will tell you, or economics will tell you, anything is based on incentive. Human behavior is based on incentive, and the incentive that these politicians have to stay in power is based on the campaign contributions, which is from companies that feel threatened by any of this innovation. So, I think you're absolutely right. There should be nothing, in the way of, innovation and the free market, especially the government.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the free market's a much better control mechanism from that, and the control is in the citizens' hands. We're the ones that have the power to determine what wins and what lost based on supply and demand. I mean, simple economic law. But let's go to the next questions here. Should national parks continue to be preserved and protected by the federal government? I said no, there's no reason for the government to own so much land. What did you say, Mark?
Well, the options, as far as allow more public access, allow limited logging, drilling, and mining. Those are just, like almost concessions or compromises to me. Yes, expand the government's domain to protect more land. That really leads to your first guess, commentary about, where that can get out of control and how it usually does. Mm-hmm. I just said no. There's no reason for the government to own so much land. Yeah,
that was what I picked, and for me, I think that all we have to do is look at, for example, government-controlled land in Oregon. That's one place where forest fires, for example, they happen in far greater numbers in areas that are owned by the government than areas that are owned by private citizens, because citizens will actually take care of the land and make sure that it doesn't fall to ruin and create these hazardous situations where forest fires happen, which threaten people's homes and livelihoods and all sorts of stuff. So I don't think that the government's doing us any favors by owning this land. In addition to that, if you look into this theory called the tragedy of the commons, when you have a common area that no one really owns, no one really cares about it. But if a private property owner owned that land, they would find the value in it. What is valuable in this land, and they would protect it and work to increase the value of it. So I would say this all needs to go into private hands, as far as I'm concerned. The federal government, the state governments, they should have the minimum amount of land as possible in order for them to do their business.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the federal government should own it, but I am saying that there are some places, and I don't even like myself for saying this, but I do believe in it, that there should be some things that are off limits to developing on, in my opinion. Like, say, for instance, a mountain, or say, for instance, like certain lakes or certain parks, those are the kinds of things where, people are just going to be building. I don't want the government owning it, but I do believe that there should be certain zones where you just can't be building crap on it. Some things just need to be, as far as available to us all. I don't think that if the rich, the richest of the rich wanted to own Mount Hood in Oregon, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it should be available to us all to go and scale and to do whatever we want with it.
Well, why shouldn't somebody be able to own a piece of land? That's what you're saying. It's property. It's land. So why shouldn't someone be allowed to own it?
Why shouldn't somebody be allowed to own Mount Everest?
Mount Hood. For example, any kind of thing that has some kind of intrinsic value. Now, if I was a developer, now granted that there are some unforeseen things that could happen, and that needs to be noted. But let's say, for example, you have a person who finds out that there's a bunch of minerals inside Mount Hood and wants to strip mine it. I understand how that does take away some of the intrinsic beauty of it. But once those are gone, they're gone. And I don't know if that person is thinking long term or not. Some people would be like, well, hey, look, I can privatize this and do exactly what the government's doing. By the way, only I can do it more effective. I can basically sell tickets to entry, which is you have to buy a pass in order to get to some of these places. Already, you're paying for a service, and if you're going to pay, first of all, a private company can provide that service cheaper. And more efficiently. So you're probably going to get a better experience at Mount Hood if it's owned by a private company.
Well, you're looking at Timberline Lodge, you're looking at Mountain Meadows. Those are private companies, and you can do, you can ski, you can do that kind of thing. But just the fact that if somebody came in and say wanted to buy the Hudson River, I don't know that should be up for sale. You see what I mean? I'm not saying that the government should own it. I'm just saying that maybe nobody should.
Yeah, I don't know about waterways because, that's kind of a necessity for life. I don't like the idea of somebody just like cutting off the flow of water, but as far as owning property, as far as owning land, I don't have any issue with having most of the most of the land that the government has sold to private hands, because I think that private hands will take care of it better, and they have an intrinsic value in their investment to protect. So, that's where I stand. I can see where you're coming from, but there's no reason for the government to own so much land. Anyway, so
I agree.
We got several other questions here. Let's get through these before we get to the commercial break. Should the United States require labeling of genetically modified food? What did you say?
Do you want to go over the choices?
Yeah,
Want me to tell you what I selected?
Let's go ahead and see. It's the first choice is yes. Second, no. Yes, yes, and ban all genetically modified foods. Yes, consumers have a right to know what is in their food. Yes, I trust the science of responsible food engineering, but I don't trust the motives of food companies. No, there is broad scientific consensus that GMO foods pose no greater risk over conventional food. No, we have selectively bred crops for thousands of years, and labeling GMO foods adds an unfounded stigma to the science. Regardless, producers should not be able to patent genetically modified food. So, what'd you pick?
I didn't even get that last one, but I picked the second to the last. No, we have selectively bred crops for thousands of years. Labeling GMO foods adds an unfounded stigma to the science. Go ahead and tell me what you picked, and I have a comment on that one too.
I picked the most complicated of all the answers here. No. Yeah. I just don't like the whole idea of the government forcing companies to label something. First of all, you're creating more bureaucracy, more red tape for these companies to do, and there's already food in circulation, so they'd have to bring stuff back. All this stuff is adding more cost to the consumer, when the simplest solution is, if you don't want to eat GMO foods, there's already a way to determine what is not GMO. It's labeled organic, so buy organic. If it's got a freaking label on it already. Why are you going to make everyone else have to pay to label their food GMO? If it doesn't say organic, it's probably GMO. So eat it at your own risk. And at that point, and I've heard people say, oh well, everything that's labeled organic does not necessarily mean that it's not GMO. Well, that's a problem with the standards on the organic label. So you guys need to deal with that on your own. Quit trying to force your stuff on everyone else.
Yeah, Forbes picked in 2009. Forbes listed Monsanto as the best company in the world. And I have, being born and raised in Portland, Oregon, the People's Republic of Portland, I was always, spoon-fed the idea that GMO is bad and Monsanto is bad, and I was just like, why? So I wanted to figure it out. And then I found out that Forbes listed Monsanto as the best company in the world, and I was like, why? And really what you start to think of is, in our hoity-toity, entitled life that we live in, a first world country, sure, we might look at it and be like, I don't like the fact that my food is increased the size, artificially. It should grow naturally. Sure, fine. Try telling that to an African village that, doesn't have running water and that is starving. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is a company, and genetically modified organisms and food is a very good thing for the majority of the world. And again, you hit the nail on the head. If you don't like it, pay more for organic, which is scientifically proven to not have any better nutritional value whatsoever.
Exactly. So, I just don't like the whole idea of people. It's a small minority of people trying to force everyone else to pay more for their food in order for them to be able to find out what they can already find out by buying organic. It's silly. Everything out there is going to
feel better.
Yeah, and it's look, you can selectively shop. You can already do that. Go buy organic. It's not GMO. And if there's a problem with the standards within the organic label, you guys, that's your thing, organic eaters. You guys need to sort that out yourself. I don't have anything to do with that. So why should I have to pay more for my food in order to put a little label on it for something that you're never going to eat? So
Exactly.
Anyway, so the next question here. Do you support the use of hydraulic fracking to extract oil and natural gas resources? The choices were yes, no, yes, but increase oversight, yes, but not in heavily populated areas, no, more research is needed to measure the long-term effects of fracking, no, we should pursue more sustainable energy sources instead. So what'd you say, Mark?
Yes.
Same here. Yeah, so we agree. And it's, the way I stand on as far as environmental impact, I understand some things right now may have some environmental impacts, and people are concerned about ruining the planet. But as I've said, there are so many innovations that have been stifled that have prevented us from getting off of fossil fuels. If the government is out of the innovation business, if it's out of our way, we will come up with ways in a short amount of time to get us off of oil, to get us off fossil fuels. All of the damage that we're doing right now can be undone if we just stop using fossil fuels. If suddenly everybody has a bike in their house that you can pedal your own electricity, it will dramatically change our life. And that's just one small invention. There's probably dozens of others that have been shut down because some big corporation saw it as a threat. And when you talk about the government, this is one thing that the statists like to say is who's going to build the roads? Who's going to build the roads? If the government wasn't involved and in bed with these oil cartels, the ones that are providing the resources for the roads, maybe we would have better private roads. Maybe we would have found a different, more environmentally friendly type of roads that we could have built, but we'll never know because the government's in charge of that, and they're in bed with these companies that have a vested interest in making sure that we're using oil-based products to build our roads.
Yep, I couldn't put it better myself. I mean, the idea that people blame capitalism for this when it's really the government's fault, because what the government is doing is they're taking money in exchange for basically, creating laws to stifle competition, to stifle innovation. That's the government's fault, not the corporations. I mean, you can't blame a corporation for all they got to do is pay off a politician in order to keep their business at number one. I mean, I don't like it, but I hate the politician for accepting it as opposed to blaming the business for doing it. I mean, the fact that they're in bed together really just says that the government is not doing its job.
So I want to give you an example here of one of the innovations. Again, I just watched this billionsandchange.com. I swear I'm not getting any sponsorship from these guys, but it's
a good one. I like it. I watch it too.
You watched it too. It is awesome. The fact that they figured out a way to tap into the Earth's energy. Do you remember that part where they could drill down into the core of the Earth and tap into that energy?
Oh yeah, no, it is amazing what it is that we haven't figured out, and yet. When we're getting into space exploration, when we don't even know what the hell's going on with our own planet.
Yeah, exactly. But this other kind of energy that they figured out that they can use is that we have a few miles into the Earth's surface. I think that there's magma, lava, all that crap in there. It's really, really hot, and they figured out that they can have this certain kind of metal. I think it's graphene, and it's an excellent conductor, way better conductor than copper. If you heat it up on one end, it will instantly the other end be the same exact temperature. It is instant, and it doesn't matter how long of a distance it is. So it could be miles long. You touch 100 degrees on one end of it, the other end is going to be 100 degrees. So they figured out that they can pump this heat out using this graphene and basically use it to make steam power plants. You're heating up water and steaming it up to produce energy to spin turbines. What we're already doing, we're burning fossil fuels. This is what I'm talking about. If the government gets out of our way, it will not be very long until our lives are completely different. And we don't have to worry about oil anymore. We don't have to worry about the damage we're doing to the planet based on this. But if the government stays in our way, we could have to be dependent because there's government-enforced monopolies on these products. Get the government out of our freaking way, and we'll have a healthier life. We'll have a longer life. We'll have more innovation. We'll have a safer and probably a cleaner planet if the government would just get the hell out of our way. Let's move to the next one here. Should the U.S. expand offshore oil drilling? I said yes. What did you say?
Yes, but I mean, what was the what is this other? There was a qualifier when it comes to it, but I mean the. What is that?
The options were yes, no, nationalize the energy sector, incentivize the private sector to develop alternative forms of energy, deregulate and let the free market determine the best energy sources.
That's the one I put.
Okay, yeah,
deregulate.
I mean, I can see that, and okay, you've actually convinced me. I'm changing my answers. Deregulate and let the free market determine the best energy source. And the other answers were no, but maintain our current offshore oil wells. No, end all offshore drilling. I don't agree with any of that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it on this so far. Do you have anything you want to add to this one?
I do. The reason why BP had such a disastrous oil spill, and the reason why we have so many of these horrible oil spills that we have, is because of the fact that we have caps on damages from these huge companies, where they're capped on the number of dollars they would be fined per day. And as far as I remember, I mean, this could have been changed, but I doubt it, because this was, not too long ago when I read this, that companies are not given the full penalty for what they do as far as damage. They're capped so as to basically not bankrupt a company so they won't lose jobs. If BP realized that there was no cap on the amount of damage that they would have had from making that disastrous oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, off Louisiana shore, I think, they would never have taken as risky of an adventure that they did. And that, to me, says that, when people are talking about, the libertarian way would just, destroy the environment. And I'm like, absolutely not, because it's about individual, or it's about responsibility. With the freedom that you have to drill, you also have the responsibility to clean up your mess. And while BP did such a public relations nightmare for them, they didn't have necessarily. And so that's the reason why they took the risk itself. Mm-hmm. And so I firmly believe that it's the fact or the lack of penalty that, incentivizes these companies to do what they're doing, which is the reason why offshore drilling isn't necessarily my cup of tea. It's not like I want it. I want better alternative energy sources than digging stuff out of the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we'll get there. My biggest thing is that in order to get there, we have to continue to innovate, and the free market will find out what energy sources are the best. And I think it's, like I said, it's only a matter of time until we hit the jackpot on clean energy, and it's only going to slow us down as having the government in our way and having the government control the game and picking winners and losers and having these small companies stifled that could be innovating and creating the new tech that we would be using to have clean energy, but they never make it off the ground because the government chokes them because they're in bed with big oil. That's my issue with this. It's deregulate, let the free market determine the best energy sources. I completely agree with that. Let's move to the next one here. Let's be quick on this one here. Should the federal government continue to give tax credits and subsidies to the wind power industry? What'd you say, Mark?
I said no, the government should leave the energy sector alone and in support for failed technologies, but I almost wanted to say end all energy sector subsidies. Subsidy, see, this is what I don't like. There's a difference between a subsidy, which is a federal payment to a company to do something, versus a tax credit, which is the lack of the amount of tax that the government is owed. So, I mean, even though it might result in the same amount of money into a company's pocket, I don't like the terminology of it, so that's why I picked that one. The government should just leave it alone.
So I don't personally care if they're supporting failed technologies or workable technologies. I don't want the government involved in the energy sector. I don't want them providing tax credits or subsidies. I don't like the idea of a progressive tax code where we complicated it by having all these different carves out and all these different loopholes for companies that they can not pay their quote fair share in taxes. All that does is create a complicated tax code that is hard for the little guy to navigate, and it benefits the big multi-billion-dollar corporations that can choke out the little guys. So I want them to end all energy sector subsidies. I don't think they should be involved in the energy sector at all. Again, I think the federal government's job is really small. Really, it boils down to 2 points: managing foreign relations and secure. And let's see. Oh crap! I lost the other one. Oh man, we talked about it on the last show. Now I've forgotten what I.
It was supposed to be to coin money. but that, to have a, a commerce or like a currency, but they turned that over to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, for some reason I'm brain dumping. I forget what the other responsibility that I figured that they ought to do. But yeah, basically it's not that. So not picking the winners and losers. So anyway, let's go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna do more on this I Side With quiz, and we'll try to wrap this up as quick as we can. Anyway, we'll be right back after this break, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, Guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. All right, so by the way, the two responsibilities of the federal government, I now remember from last week's show, is first of all to manage affairs with foreign nations. That can be obviously treaties, protecting the citizens through the military, and also I guess you could even include immigration as a responsibility. The second one is settling disputes in order to protect life, liberty, and property. So that would be what I would consider the really only real roles that the federal government should be involved in, and those disputes are between interstate disputes. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on with this quiz. We're on isidewith.com. By the way, if you guys have anything that you want to join in on the conversation, the number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that's 360-450-5625. You can message us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, or get us on Twitter. Let us know your results. I'm happy to read them live on the air. I'm happy to talk with you guys about something that you may disagree with our choices here. Anyway, Mark, you there?
I sure am.
Okay, so let's move on to the economic issues here. So you've already finished all the environmental issues, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so isidewith.com quiz starting on the economic issues. Should employers be required to pay men and women who perform the same work the same salary? Yes, no, and the government should never mandate prices or wages for private businesses. No, there are too many other variables such as education, experience, and tenure that determine a fair salary. By the way, we're going to be getting into the wage gap conversation. Maybe not. I'm not sure if we'll have time on this show. I'm going to try. Anyway, and then the other answer is yes, and businesses should be required to publish their salary ranges for each position. So on this one, I put no, and the government should never mandate prices or wages for private businesses. What'd you say, Mark?
Exactly that. It sucks we can't disagree more, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason for it. I mean, I read the other one going, other variables, education, experience, tenure, that determine a fair salary, but, nothing is to determine what is fair except a business, and it's not even about what fair is, it's about what value is. So regardless, I mean, if you're in an image business, you might, promote somebody because of your image. If you're in a quality business or a technology business, you promote somebody based on the value that you're providing your company, not based on their gender, and so the government has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. But you know what? Since we're in the middle of this here, I'm going to take just would you mind sticking with us a little bit longer, Mark, like 5 minutes longer while I cover the wage gap conversation? Is that cool with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course, yes.
All right, we're going to bust into a Mac attack real quick, guys. So here we go.
It's time for the Mac Attack!
All right, this is a segment where we talk about outrageous events in the news. One of the things I wanted to get to here is to bust the entire idea of a wage gap myth. Okay, there are statistics that basically show that women make less money than men overall for the same jobs. Okay, and I have found several peer-reviewed studies here. One of which I want to actually talk about here. This is by CONSAD. This group was it's CONSAD, CONSAD Research Corporation, and this was prepared for the U.S. Department of Labor. So this is not like it's extremely biased. It was for the government. Their own research. Anyway, the following report prepared by CONSAD Research Corporation presents the results of a detailed statistical analysis of the attributes that contributed to the wage gap and a synopsis of the economic research that has been conducted on the issue. The major findings are there are observable differences in the attributes of men and women that account for most of the wage gap. Statistical analysis that includes those variables has produced results that collectively account for between 65.1 and 76.4% of the raw gender wage gap of 20.4%, and thereby leave an adjusted gender wage gap that is between 4.8 and 7.1%. These variables include a greater percentage of women than men tend to work part-time. Part-time tends to pay less than full-time work. A greater percentage of women than men tend to leave the workforce or the labor force for childbirth, child care, and elder care. Some of that of the wage gap is explained by the percentage of women who were not in the labor force during previous years, the age of women, and the number of children in the home. Women, especially working mothers, tend to value family-friendly workplace policies more than men. Some of the wage gap is explained by industry and occupation, particularly the percentage of women who work in the industry and occupation. So basically, what this means is that women they have different interests in the career that they're doing sometimes. So some women are working part-time, which obviously you're going to make less money working part-time than if you work full-time. That just makes sense, right? In addition, if a woman is out of the workforce, they're out of the labor force, they're not going to be making money during that time. So yeah, they're making less money. In addition to the fact that you have to also take into account that if a 30-year-old woman has taken 5 years off to raise some of her children, and a 30-year-old man has not taken any time off, and he's been nose to the grindstone that whole time. He's got work experience that the woman doesn't have, and time in that job. He's bringing some skills to the table that woman is not. In addition, women talking, and again, I don't necessarily mean that the woman is not, but that doesn't have skills, but she doesn't have the experience that this man does, time of actually working in this particular job. So, and then also, women, they tend to value these family-friendly work policies. So maybe they have a place that they can have weekends off or something, and be, they're willing to accept less because they want to have more time off with their family. They're willing to accept less money because they are getting something out of it in return. Whereas a man may be the sole provider of his household, and he has to work. So there are differences. This is actually a very interesting study. You can check it out again. That's at consad.com. That's the Gender Wage Gap Final Report. I highly recommend you guys check this out. There's a whole bunch of other ones, and in fact, there is an article on HuffPost. This is HuffPost.com. Again, this is not a right-wing website, and it's talking about the wage gap myth exposed by feminists. This was on November 2012. The article is written by Christina Hoff-Sommers. Wage gap myth exposed by feminists. So you guys can check this out, and it really breaks this down. So, Mark, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I really think it's an opportunity for politicians to exploit the fears in people's minds and hearts so that they can win votes, so that special interests can take hold, or special interests have really, I mean, the fact that it's so obvious why, if there is a wage gap, why it is. And it's not because of the fact that an employer is blatantly discriminating because of the fact that, she's a woman. Sure, there might be some cases of that. I'm not saying that there aren't sexist people or employers in this country. What I am saying is that A, it's illegal to do such a thing. B, if you really think that's going on in your company, go work for another one, because you can move unilaterally and you can move up that way if you move from one company to another and you've got the work experience. But one of the things that I don't think you mentioned is that the nature of the college degrees. I mean, granted, women and men are almost equal in college now, but men have historically gone to college more often, and the degrees that they pick and the types of professions that they pick are clearly higher paying. They lead to more pay. Women typically go into more liberal arts, like women's studies, and men typically go into more sciences, like math or economics or something that would get you a higher paying job. And again, I think that this is just a reason for a politician to exploit the hearts and minds of the uneducated electorate in order to win votes.
For me,
most of it is.
yeah, I mean that's true. For me, I'm on the woman's side in this instance. I'm for women getting getting fair pay, but I'm also I'm not for coercing anybody to do something that they don't want to do. And my issue is I'd rather women have a job that that they're not getting paid as much than no job at all. And this is where I think there's a disconnect. Because, for example, and this is brought up by Milton Friedman, one of a really famous economist from back in the day, but
Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah. So Milton Friedman, he's talking about how if you have a employer who is a bigot and he only wants to hire men and he doesn't want to hire women because for some reason he hates women. I don't know why. Women are awesome, but I don't know why he would. Everybody comes from a woman, so why would you hate women? It blows me away. But I digress. Anyway, this employer, he only wants to hire men, and if you create a minimum wage or a standard that they both have to get paid the same amount, a man or a woman, then it doesn't cost this employer any money to be a bigot. It doesn't cost them anything to choose that man over the woman because he doesn't want to hire the woman in the first place. But now, if the woman is able to negotiate and say, hey, I'll do that job and I'll do it for less, then at that point, that woman will have an opportunity to get the job over the man and be competitive in that job market. And if the employer still wants to be a bigot, at least it will cost him something in order to be a bigot.
That's a really great point. I think another point to make is that the people that complain about this are almost unequivocally the first people to talk about how, money isn't everything, and I don't really care about how much I make. It's about how much I love my job, and I don't go into a higher paid profession for the money, and it's not about the money, and it's not about the money. But then they're the first people to complain about the money, and I think that that's just where it gets to be not only the hypocrisy, but also the contradiction and just the approach to it is just so inconsistent. And again, it's just another reason to complain about something, in my opinion.
So
I'm very much a feminist. I'm very much equal work, equal pay. I'm very much for but the market will work that out. I mean, there are so many people that want women in their positions because women tend to be better managers because they tend to add more of a human element into things. I mean, when I look in terms of hiring, and when I started a company, I wanted more women than men because of the way that I, looked at how women can be a lot more compassionate when it comes to, not only their hiring practices, but when it comes to, just, creating a lot more harmony in the workplace. So it's stupid to be sexist, bigoted, racist, whatever in the workplace nowadays, especially with the press that we have. So again, I think it's a non-issue that will be an issue to happen.
I agree. It's actually a myth. I mean, when you look at the data that from this peer-reviewed study that I'm talking about, the one from CONSAT, the wage gap. Initially, they're saying that there is a 65.1 and a 76.4 difference in wages, basically, or actually, I'm sorry. Let's see. Statistical analysis that includes those variables has produced results that collectively account for between 65.1 and 76.4% of the raw gender wage gap. And the difference they're saying is 20.4% difference between men and women. So 76.4 of that 20.4% is accounted for, which only leaves 4.8 and 7.1%. So basically, you get down to the statistical irrelevance basically of like 4 and 5%, between 4 and 7% difference in wages, which is not. I don't think it's enough to really complain about. Come on.
No, you're absolutely right.
So let's go ahead and continue on here with this test here, with this quiz here. So we both picked no, but again, mine was no. The government should never mandate prices or wages for private businesses. Is that what you picked?
Yes.
Okay, so moving on. Should able-bodied, mentally capable adults who receive welfare be required to work? The options are yes, no, yes, adults who receive government benefits should be required to work, yes, and eliminate welfare altogether as it is not authorized in the Constitution, no, workfare is a form of slave labor, no, but their benefits would expire after 2 years of unemployment, no, but in order to receive benefits, they should be looking for a job or enrolled in education or job training programs. So what'd you pick? This is a tough one.
Yeah, it is a bit of a tough one, only because when we're talking about welfare, I mean, from what I understand, welfare is very much a state issue, and the federal government might have some say in it or some subsidizing in terms of kickbacks, but I don't know that the federal government does this. So to me, welfare is very much a state's issue, when it comes to, some things. That being said, if you were able-bodied and mentally capable, you should most certainly be required to work. When it says, yes, adults who receive government benefits should be required to work, I don't see how that's any different than just answering yes. So I just said yes.
Yeah. So for me, I put yes and eliminate welfare altogether as it is not authorized in the Constitution. That's kind of where I stand on it. But I mean, I don't even. I wish I could just say no, just to get rid of welfare altogether. I don't understand the whole idea of like forcing people to work. For welfare. I don't know. This whole thing. I just think we should get rid of welfare and let charities help people who need help, who are looking for hands up instead of hands out. And if you fall into hard times, I mean, you're able-bodied and mentally capable, you should not be forced to do anything. Your circumstances should force you to work. If you need to eat, you have to do something to get that food. So, if you're willing to work for it, people will be willing to help you. Again, we're the most charitable country in the world, statistically proven year after year. We give more than any other country on the planet. So, I have a hard time believing that we wouldn't take care of our own. And I don't think that we get any kind of credit out of forced charity, through governmental coercion. But let's move to the next one here. Should all welfare recipients be tested for drugs? The answers were yes, no, this is a waste of time and money, no, only if they have a criminal history related to drug abuse. Regardless, we should end all social welfare programs. Yes, test anyone receiving money from the government, including employees and politicians. Yes, and immediately terminate benefits for anyone testing positive. Yes, but provide treatment for those testing positive. So, what'd you pick?
I had a really tough time with this. One, I'm very much against the drug war. Two, I'm not for drug testing, mandatory drug testing in private companies. But if you're receiving benefits, when we're talking about welfare, this is where I had another challenge. I mean, my mother was on food stamps and housing, government housing. She was a single mother of two. And it definitely helped. It helped out a lot. My mother was not, a highly educated woman. She worked as a server in a restaurant. So it was very difficult. Granted, if there weren't any government programs, maybe there would have been a higher level of charity that would have helped her out. But when I look at it and say, what is welfare? Because she wasn't receiving cash payments. She was getting part of her home subsidized and her food subsidized. So is that welfare too? So I looked at this and I said, yeah, but here's the thing. If you're looking at all of that, I said, yes, but test anyone who is receiving money from the government, including employees and politicians.
Yeah, so I just put, for me, honestly, I don't like the idea of the government analyzing people's pee unnecessarily. And I think for me, I don't agree with the social welfare programs. I think that churches or charities, they can take care of that as well. And the whole idea of the government sucking up money out of other sectors of the economy in order to pump it into an area that it thinks is better suited for it, and in this case, charity, I would disagree. First of all, government is inefficient and they waste money like crazy. So the idea, even if they had a proportioned a certain amount of money every year to go to this is like the worst nonprofit charity organization you can ever imagine. That this company is just it's got holes in buckets of money, and you're just losing money out the bottom of the bucket through corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse. The government sucks at this kind of stuff. So the money,
you're right.
The money that you pay to it, they're doing a crappy job with it. If they weren't taking this money out of these communities in the first place, they would have more money in their pocket to use it to provide charity out of the kindness of their heart and not through governmental coercion. So I just put, regardless, we should end all social welfare programs.
And that's a very consistent statement from you. I don't know why I put the other one. I looked at it and said it was mainly for the employees as well as for the politicians, because I'm like, I don't know how quickly we're going to get us off of welfare. I just don't think that people are going to cut those programs. But if you're being true and consistent to your word, then yeah, I mean, you can't have open borders in a welfare state at the same time and survive. And, to be consistent, I'm for more open borders, but I'm definitely for ending the welfare state.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if we are going to have a welfare state, I think that it should be left to the states to decide as far as how they want to handle that. And if they are doing that and they choose to do that, I think they can choose whatever stipulations. No one's forcing you to pee in a cup, by the way. If you choose not to pee in the cup, you're just not on welfare. So it's not coercive. If you want something, you got to do something. And if the states choose to do that, I don't have any problem with that. But with the federal government, I don't want the feds involved in that. That's too much, And again,
exactly.
The entire state process, having 50 states, we have 50 different experiments going on. If one of them blows up in one of the states' face, the union survives. It's not like if California, it goes into a huge fiscal crisis. Oop, already happened. If California goes into fiscal crisis, then it's not like the rest of the country is done for. The country will survive, even though that experiment failed. Now, if you have the federal government with their hand in so much stuff and in control, and the federal government fails, we all go down. Because I'll tell you right now, the feds aren't going to go down without taking all the money out of our pockets first. So that's the way I look at it. Let's see.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And plus, what do we call a drug? I mean, what's going to be tested for drugs? I mean, is alcohol included in that? Are you talking about prescription drugs? Or are you just talking about pot, which to me is the least harmful?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it should matter, and I think that on top of this is that these people getting help from the government. The whole reason for this check, the urinalysis check to see if these people are actually on drugs, is basically a way for the federal government to determine if these people are worthy of receiving their help or not. Are they genuinely in need of help, or are they on drugs, is basically what they're trying to say. I think that the fundamental problem is that the federal government or the welfare system in general, it's so disconnected from this process to be able to determine if this person is worthy of receiving help or not. I think that churches and charities are far better at judging whether or not these people actually need help or if they're just trying to mooch. I think that the government.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, government's just not good at that. So next question: should the government raise the federal minimum wage? I just went ahead and said no on this. I didn't even bother reading any of the other ones. I just no. So what'd you say?
The other ones where it said, no, increasing the minimum wage will only cause prices increase in a never-ending cycle. I put that, but I was also like, minimum wages are meant to develop experience, not support a family. I'm not even for, they're not meant, minimum wage shouldn't even be meant for anything. It shouldn't even be a federal minimum wage or a state minimum wage. It should be, the market will determine the minimum wage. And so I think you're right. No is just right there. But, are you going to no and eliminate all federal wage standards?
Yeah, I've actually changed my answer now that I've expanded it. I picked the no and eliminate all federal wage standards.
Yeah.
So, all right, that seems pretty clear-cut. I don't really want to tear that one apart too far because we're already almost 2 hours into this show here. So
there we go, yeah.
Okay, should the government make cuts to public spending in order to reduce the national debt? We got yes, no, yes, and increase taxes, yes, and eliminate government agencies that are not within constitutional strictures. Maybe that's structures, I don't know. No,
I think it's structures, yeah.
Yeah, no, cuts to public spending will have a negative impact on the economy. No, increased taxes on large multinational corporations instead. No, reduced military spending instead. No, increased taxes instead. What you got?
Yes.
Should the government make cuts to public spending in order to...
I think I put yes, eliminate government agencies that are not within constitutional structure.
I see. Yeah, I just picked yes on this one because, right now we're spending more than we've ever spent, and we're just spinning ourselves into debt here. I've talked about this on the show several times. You guys pretty much know where I stand as far as this debt. The feds, they're just spending too much. They've made more money than they've ever made in history, and they say they need more. So it's not an income problem. It's a spending problem. So yeah, they need to do some cutting. Okay, should the U.S. Reduce corporate income tax rates?
This one's a little interesting to me because income tax is, back in 1913 when we instituted the federal income tax, it was really thought to be that income was not really, your work for money. Income was only supposed to be for corporations. So when I say I don't necessarily, if we were to look at what it is that we're spending, because I definitely believe we need to cut spending for sure, including on military, including on everything that we're doing. But we need to really look at how is it that the federal government maintains its budget. And so when I looked at this and said corporate income tax rates versus individual income tax rates is a different story entirely to me. But what I did is I said, I think I said switch to a flat tax with no deductions. Yeah. Because of the fact that, when you're looking at a flat tax, whether it be for corporations or whether it be for individuals, it really encourages, people taking on risks. It encourages people making a decent living. It encourages a lot of really healthy behavior. But then, if you make a lot, you're going to pay some tax on that kind of thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with corporations paying taxes, but I think that eliminating a lot of the loopholes and a lot of the deductions that really a lot of times are abused, I just said switch to a flat tax with no deductions.
Yeah, that's what I picked as well. I think that, and I've said it before, the more stipulations you make within the tax code, the easier it is for these big guys to actually navigate through it, and it's harder on the little guys. So I think a flat tax is the only fair way to do it. How could you not be paying your fair share if you're paying 14-15% of your income, and everyone has to pay that, no deductions whatsoever. How could you ever be accused of not paying your fair share? 15% of a million is more than 15% of 1,000. I think we all can agree on that. So, you are in fact paying more. The percentage is the same, but the actual amount of dollars depends on how much you make. So, I don't think that should be that should be anything that we actually encourage as far as creating loopholes and complicating the tax code. It's 73,000 pages already. Let's just cut it down to where we can do it on the back of like a postage stamp. How do your taxes? I made this much money, 15%. This is how much I owe you. There we go. So next question here, and let's be quick on the next few here. I want to get out of these economic questions as quick as possible here. Do you believe unions help or hurt the economy? I said they help in theory, but have recently become corrupt and should have their powers limited. That was kind of the best of the answers that I could find. I couldn't find one that I really 100% agreed with, but that was where I stood. Where'd you pick here?
I actually did originally say that, but I changed my mind to hurt. I support some private unions. I've been strongly against public sector labor unions. I think public sector labor unions do hurt the economy. I think they stifle, they stifle so much progress in the way of contract negotiations. What they're unionizing against is us, the taxpayer, and what they are doing when it comes to hurting public education. Unions almost exclusively are what's destroying our public education. When you're dealing with strikes, when you're dealing with, practically anything that public employee unions do is the kind of thing that stifles the economy. And I think that right there, it says to me that, private unions are absolutely necessary, in my opinion. You have, trade unions, you've got, unions that, I think for carpenters or for, machinists or for anything like that. That's good because you need those to battle the big guys. A corporation shouldn't have way more power over its own people, and a private union is exactly what it takes in order to really create equity. But a public union, again, all they're unionizing against is us, the taxpayer, and that hurts the economy more than anything, in my opinion.
So I actually, after hearing your answer here, I actually agree with you. As far as the answer, I switched it up here. So I support private unions, but I am strongly against public sector labor unions. For me, this is one of the things that where I stand on this. You're supposed to be a public servant. The entire act of working in the government is supposed to be a sacrifice, a self-sacrifice. And the whole idea that you're going to collectively bargain for higher wages and do work stoppages and strikes and stuff like that. Look, if you don't want to be a public servant, go do something else. Somebody else can have this job as far as I'm concerned. And, maybe we don't even need somebody in that job. Maybe the government shouldn't be working that job to begin with. But the idea of you're saying I'm going to be a public servant, but you better pay me more or I'm going to stop working. I don't really agree with that. I remember when I was in the military, for example. When you join the military, you lose your rights. There are some times where I was like, hey. We were having a conversation with my supervisor, and they were saying that they can come in and search homes of people off base. They can actually come in and search your home for whatever. If they think that you're on drugs or something, and they don't have any proof or anything, they can just come in unannounced and search your home. And it's pretty outrageous to me. I was like, don't I have like a right against unlawful search and seizure? Again, they weren't actually searching my home in this circumstance. I don't want to make it seem like somebody suspected me of doing drugs or something in the military, but no, we were just having a rhetorical conversation, and my supervisor actually told me, you don't have those rights when you're in the military. You actually lose those rights when you join. So I find it interesting that that the military has to deal with some of the sacrifices that come along with being public servants, but the public sector in general does not, and they can collectively bargain a strike. Imagine if the military or police did that, but that's illegal. They can't.
Yeah, they can't.
Which is interesting. But anyway, let's go to this. I'm actually really interested to hear what you had to say on this one. Should Wall Street executives be criminally charged for their roles in the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis? I said no. Lawmakers are more to blame for allowing the subprime mortgage crisis to occur because of the easy lending laws that they had, where you basically had to loan money to people who probably couldn't pay it back because the government was saying there was like a disparate impact for loans among minority communities. So what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, the Community Reinvestment Act of 1977 and the Federal Reserve are the two primary culprits in the 2008 crash. If there was any malfeasance among Wall Street executives, if there was any kind of a situation where these people intentionally either did any kind of market manipulation, insider trading, then yes, I mean, those people should be punished. But to me, Wall Street executives are the scapegoats here or the whipping boys here because of the fact that nobody wants to look at the fact that the government was the reason for this. So a Community Reinvestment Act of 77 basically said we should give loans to and it was primarily a good reason. It said, we want to give loans to minorities and women because of the fact that they weren't buying homes, and they believe that, buying homes creates more stability and a better, community, which, yes, I agree with that theory. But just like almost every other government program, it has horrible side effects that are never really blamed or never really attributed because they have a lag effect. And 1977 to 2008 was a pretty big lag effect. So that and the fact that the Federal Reserve is artificially lowering or keeping and suppressing interest rates to keep them low, that encouraged bad lending, that encouraged people to borrow, money they could not afford and that they wouldn't have been able to get with any higher interest rates. So I agree with you. The lawmakers are more to blame.
Okay, so let's see here. Should the government increase the tax rate on profits earned from the sale of stocks, bonds, and real estate? My answer on this was no. An increase in capital gains will limit investment in our economy. Again, I don't think that we have an income problem. The federal government has obtained more money in taxes than they've ever in the history of this government, both in percentages and dollar amounts, by the way. So, it's outrageous for them to continue to just shake us upside down and collect the pennies from heaven that fall to their feet. It's upsetting to me that they just want more and more and more of our money, and in doing this, it stifles the economy. And a capital gains tax, the answer I put, no, an increase to capital gains will limit the investment in our economy. When you start to tax something or you start to penalize somebody for doing that thing, you actually decrease the amount of people doing that. So if you incentivize something, i.e. leave it the hell alone, that's a great way to do it too, and let the free market incentivize it, you'll get more of that. So if you want people to invest in the economy, you stop penalizing them for doing so. What do you think, Mark?
Absolutely, I agree with you, but it's the idea that the reason why they do this is because of the fact that people get rich on this. And I want to encourage people I want to encourage people to get rich. I don't want to discourage people. And I don't care if, Bill Gates has $150 billion or $50 billion. It's not my business. What I want is more people investing for their future. I'm a financial advisor by trade, and I don't like the idea that, the government wants to punish people for investing for their future and trying to get rich.
So, I mean, here's a big difference between the left. I mean, they say that they want to, like, give everybody the American dream of being middle class, when in reality their policies shrink the middle class and create a bigger divide between the wealthy and the poor. Where you and I stand on this is I want everyone to have the opportunity to become billionaires. Screw the middle class. I want you to be filthy freaking rich, and I want the government to stay out of your way in order for you to get there. So, I mean, that's kind of where I feel about it. Anyway, next question. Should the federal government subsidize U.S. farmers? Just read your answer for this, because this is going to be easy. For me, it's just flat out no. What do you think?
It is no, and all subsidies let the free market run its course. I understand why they did it before, and it was because of the fact that the federal government was able to coordinate growing of crops so that there wasn't too much in one area and not enough in another. But now with the technology that we have, it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, the idea of artificially propping something up is not effective, especially with the government. And it's food. You don't have to artificially prop up food. Everyone knows it's a good idea. Everyone needs it. So it's not like you have to do anything with this other than just make the food. Let the farmers make the food and let the free market control the prices. You don't have to the government involved in the price fixing of food and stuff like that.
Mac, I mean, the price fixing is the biggest problem, because what they do is they make sure that prices never fall below a certain rate, as opposed to having a minimum price. I mean, as opposed to having like a maximum price, they have a minimum price. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of poor people just can't afford some of this food, and so there are people that go, hungry when there's a bunch of food that's not even eaten.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's an absolutely ridiculous scheme that the government has. And really all it is because of special interest.
Yeah, exactly. And it really upsets me that the idea that, the government, on one hand, they're talking about social welfare, how they want to help the needy. And then on the other hand, they literally are burning food in order to number one, to keep the price high. And number two, to produce things like ethanol, which costs more energy to create than it does actually produce. So it's just ridiculous to me that they're literally burning food, and we got people that are hungry here in the country, and the cost of food would be less if this was introduced into the market through supply and demand. And the market would balance out. By the way, if it costs too much money to make this food, for the price that it's selling, then people would just not sell their food, or that people would go. The marginal producers would go out of business, and the people would who are able to sustain that kind of lower demand, they would be able to withstand. And then when the prices level out, the prices would be a whole lot more leveled than we really think, and we don't need the government to control. The free market controls this stuff. So anyway, we got so many questions here to get through. Let's just give our answers. No explanations on the next four here, okay, Mark?
Sounds good.
Should pension plans for federal, state, and local government workers be transitioned into private plans?
I said yes, pension spending is out of control and must be reduced.
That is actually what I picked too. So, all right, the next one here. Would you favor an increase in sales tax in order to reduce property taxes? The options were yes, no, but decrease the tax rates for seniors. No, property taxes are the most reliable and consistent form of state revenue. Yes, but dramatically decrease government spending instead of raising taxes. Yes, property taxes rates do not reflect the owner's ability to pay. So. Anyway, my answer for this was yes, but dramatically decrease government spending instead of raising taxes. What do you say?
That's exactly what I. Yeah, sales taxes in my opinion, is much better than a property tax. But we said no qualifying. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that one. So, okay, do you support the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Now, I actually need to do a lot more research on this, but from what I have read,
me too.
I do not support it, as far as I understand it. This seems to have pretty much bipartisan support on not supporting it. It seems like, but I digress. What'd you pick?
I actually said yes. When every country focuses on what it does best, the overall economic pie becomes bigger. I'm a very much a free trade kind of guy. I'm very much but I don't know enough about it. Just in theory, I'm for opening that up to, Allowing, Mexico, Canada, the United States to trade more freely and to work together more freely.
And I don't necessarily know if that's what the TPP does. I've heard a lot of negative things about it, but again, it's all kind of hearsay as far as stuff that I've heard. And again, one of the reasons why I don't support this is because it's secret. Nobody's read the Trans-Pacific Partnership, so other than the legislators. So how do we know what's in it? I'm not going to support anything that I can't read myself. If the entire idea of governments, deriving their power from the consent of the people. Well, if we can't freaking see what they're doing, there's not any transparency. I don't support that. So no, I'm not going to support the TPP because I can't freaking read it. Should companies be required to provide full-time employees with paid leave for the birth of a child or sick family member? So this is basically saying, like, should the government force this company to do that? The options were yes, no, yes, but only for maternity leave, yes, but only for companies with 100 plus employees. Yes, a lack of paid sick leave is unfair to working men and women. Yes, but the federal government should sponsor this program instead of businesses. Yes, but only for sick leave, which is unexpected, instead of a pregnancy, which is a personal choice. No, private companies should decide the amount of competitive incentives they offer employees instead of government mandate. And no, too many workers take advantage of these programs. I said no, private companies should decide the amount of competitive incentives they offer to employees instead of government mandate. What'd you say?
That's exactly what I said.
Okay. All right. So
exactly.
Let's go ahead and we got several other categories here. Let's not expand any further into these categories and just do the top three.
Let's just do yes or no. Let's do yes or no on these. How's that?
Okay, yeah, we'll basically just plow through these here. So, should every person purchasing a gun be required to pass a criminal and public safety background check? Man, I wish we were answering these more. These would be okay. So I'm going to say no. But
I said no, and yeah, I said.
Actually, I'm changing my answer. No, background checks are ineffective and waste government resources. Do you support increased gun control? Let's see. Yes, no. No, only for assault rifles. No, only for individuals with mental health issues and convicted felons.
I said that one, for mental health issues and convicted felons. Although not all convicted felons shouldn't be able to own a gun, but I do believe that you got to have some responsibility in making sure that the laws are upheld.
I don't have any. My issue is that I don't think felons should be out on the street in the first place if they're still dangerous to society. So that's a problem with the prison system and not with the background check system. We shouldn't all have to submit to these background checks. And, I've kind of covered this a lot in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and just say no. I do not support increased gun control. But I actually want there to be less gun control. I don't want any gun control. So anyway, should there be term limits set for members of Congress? I would say yes. What did you say, Mark?
Yes, they're necessary to prevent corruption.
Absolutely. Okay, so do you support the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare?
Oh, wait a minute. We're
in the healthcare issues.
We're going.
Yeah, I was just going to skip only do the top three. Of each one.
Oh, only
do
the top three. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. No, I don't support it. No.
Okay, so I did the same thing.
Open markets.
Yeah, no open markets. No, open the market so insurers can compete across state lines and drive down costs. I agree with that as well. Let's see here. Should the federal government require children to be vaccinated for preventable diseases? I said no.
I said no, but if they're going to public schools, then yes.
Okay. Let's see here. The next one, do you support legalization of marijuana? I said yes. And, there's some other qualifiers in here, but what did you say?
Yes, and free everybody who's been in jail for it.
Okay. All right, you got me. I'm changing that one, too. So, all right, let's see here. Let's move down to the foreign issues here, foreign policy issues. Should the government decrease military spending? I would say the current time that we're in right now, probably not a good idea to decrease military spending. We got so many other areas that we could, eliminate excesses from. That I would say that the military probably isn't the biggest place that we should be cutting right now. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's just so much waste in every government program, and I think that we do need to cut it. It could be done. It could be spent smarter. In other words.
I would go with a comprehensive check of what could be cut, but I don't think that we should decrease spending. I think we should use the money that we're spending more effectively. But I'm just going to go ahead and go with no on this answer. Should they decrease that? Because I don't see the right qualifier in these. It's no, but eliminate excess profits from all defense contracts and military expenditures. Okay, that's the one I'm going to go for. All right. So which one did you pick?
I picked. Actually, right at the moment, I just said yes.
Okay. Alrighty. Should foreign terrorism suspects be given constitutional rights? What do you think, Mark?
I had to qualify it, but I'll say no just for brevity.
Yeah. I feel like just saying yes or no is probably going to change the results. Like if we're if we're not as detailed,
I know, right?
we're probably not going to.
I have like very little time, so I have to jump off here. If you want to continue to go on with these, absolutely. I just have to jump off.
No, I understand. That's why I'm rushing through it. I actually want to hear your results as well. So
this is so much fun, though.
yeah. I'm having a good time. So yeah, I just put no. I don't think they should be given constitutional rights. I think they have certain human rights, but if you are suspected of a crime and they think that you've done something, they have every right to detain you and hold you, as long as as long as it's not indefinite without a trial. I think.
Yeah, I said the military tribunals, but not subject to torture. That's what my answer is.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. So, okay, should the U.S. formally declare war on ISIS? Formally declare war on ISIS? I don't know.
Well, that was a tough one. That was probably the hardest one for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and just say no for right now. Not until they attack us on U.S. soil. I don't know.
I mean, do you have to wait for a bomb? Do you have to wait for a bomb to drop on us? Well, but should we continue to intervene and all this stuff?
You know what?
But we also see how bad it's getting, and why doesn't the rest? Actually, I said, I can't believe I said this, but I said yes, but only with full cooperation from the UN.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm not a huge fan of the UN, but if we're in it, we got to work with it. And I think if the UN's going to be involved in it, then yeah, sure.
I think we need out of the UN, in my opinion. I think we need to get out of that and start something else.
Yes, but like I said, just with that, I was like, okay, since we're in the UN, let's consult with them because it isn't on our soil.
Yeah.
So what does the rest of the world, I mean, we need to involve them too. The rest of the world got to get involved in this.
So
because it could be a big problem.
As far as the question of whether to declare war on ISIS, I'm just going to go ahead and go with yes on this because they've already declared war on us. So what does it really matter at this point? Or as Hillary Clinton says, what difference does it make? Anyway, all right, moving to the educational issues. Would you support increasing taxes on the rich in order to reduce the interest rates for student loans? I'm going to say no.
No.
Yeah. All right.
Private sector.
Yep, there we go. Do you support... Oh, sorry, my computer's making noises here. Do you support the adoption of Common Core national education standards? No. What'd you say?
No.
Okay.
It's too costly. There's so many other reasons why, but no.
Should a photo ID be required to vote? I said yes. How about you?
Yes. God,
Okay.
that's such an obvious. I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want that.
They say that there's disproportioned minorities that are affected because they can't afford to get IDs, even though
Give me a break.
even though they have got free government ID programs and stuff like that. They say, oh well, they can't get up to the place to get the ID. Well, how did you get up to the voting booth if you can't get up to the place to get the ID?
Yeah,
and they're like, oh well,
ridiculous.
you've got to take time off from work to spend time in these bureaucracies getting the ID. Look, if you really want to vote, you'll go through the process. If you don't, if it's not important to you, okay, then it doesn't really matter to me if it doesn't matter to you. So, anyway, should illegal immigrants be given access to government subsidized health care? I said no. What did you say?
No.
Yeah, I don't think that we should be paying for other people's crap.
There shouldn't be any subsidized health care.
Exactly. Thank you. Whether you're legal
illegal
or
illegal.
Yeah. Do you support stronger measures to increase border security? Okay, so this is a complicated one because I'm not for a wall, but I am for like actual increased security as far as patrolling and stopping people and not necessarily physical barriers, but like increased ICE staff and things along those lines in order to get the illegals that we actually do catch out. Now, I'm not for necessarily expanding the program to the point of where we're trying to capture every single one that's here legally, but if we stumble across them, I want to have the resources to get them out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there need to be a lot more communication between state and federal governments. This is a federal government problem. This is also a state government problem. But it's mainly a welfare state problem that people wouldn't be coming here illegally. They'd be coming here legally if we didn't offer the things that they want without really becoming a citizen.
Agreed. So my answer on this was yes, and allow bordering states to manage their own border security. What do you think about that? Which one did you pick?
Yeah, but I think it's also a federal government's issue. You know, I mean, I definitely think the federal government has something to do with this.
Yeah, I would agree. But again, I think that the federal government, part of what they should be doing is utilizing the states themselves to do this. You know, because the states have a vested interest in keeping people out of their state as well, who are illegal. So that is, I think that's a state's issue that should be, the feds. It should be a federal law for it, but I think that the states should be the ones that are enforcing it.
You know, I actually said no, make it easier for immigrants to access temporary work visas. I mean, as opposed to trying to punish something, create a better reason to not have it in the first place. That was mine. It was more carrot than the stick for me. I'm not going to kick up a fuss if somebody puts up I don't live in a border state, so I really don't know the severity of the issues when you're dealing with that.
I mean, I've talked to several people who are on the border and have seen some of the violence spill over and have seen people coming right up through their property, and their property gets turned into this highway for immigrants, illegal immigrants, and coyotes and all drugs and all this other stuff. So it's just I understand if as far as a local community, a state community, that you have a vested interest in your own security, and I think they should be allowed to enforce their own border security. I don't see what the government, for example, in situations like Arizona or even Texas, I think they were talking about enforcing their own border security. The federal government actually prevented them from doing so. So I think it's wrong. I think they have a right to enforce their own state laws. I think states have the right to govern.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I just think it should be more of it's a common problem between the two. And like I said, I mean, we're trying to fix the effect and not change the cause.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of border security in the first place is it's all. You're basically treating symptoms. This is similar to the gun control issue, and I made this analogy. I make it all the time. You're treating a gunshot wound by mopping up the blood on the floor. The issue is we have incentives here that are bringing people here illegally. The welfare state that they think they're going to get a better life, an easier shot at or something. The free health care, free everything. Everything's free, and why wouldn't they come here? So of course,
sure.
That's why they're coming. You're not gonna stop them from flowing through any more than you're gonna stop the blood from pumping out of somebody. Until they're dead. Even if you're cleaning up all the floor on the ground, the patient's still sitting there bleeding to death. So it's just like the same aspect. People are flooding across the border because there's a root cause drawing them there. If we get rid of the root cause, the welfare state, they'll stop coming on their own and self-deport. I prefer that rather than turning this country into a police state. But anyway, we got...
Yes. Well, with that, I hate to do this to you, Mac, but I gotta go. I'm running late. So
crap. Okay.
I know. If I could finish it with you, I would, but I do gotta go.
All right. Well, hey, save your answer, man. No. The next show you're on, we'll talk about it. Okay.
Absolutely. I sided. Do you want me to tell you who I sided with at the end?
Yeah. Go for it. Well, who'd you side with?
Yeah, I was 90% with Rand Paul.
90%.
That was my.
Okay.
90%.
Did it give you a political party like 90% Libertarian or something like that?
No, it just gave me. I just read the Who Do You Stand With, which is that, and that's very much a Libertarian.
Okay.
Position.
Okay. All right. Well, cool, man. Thanks. I certainly appreciate it, and thanks for coming on the show again today, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. Max, it's always a pleasure.
All right, yeah, same here. And have a good one. What are you going to, a movie or something, Mark? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm late. I'm gonna go see the Bond movie.
Bond,
I know it sounds bad, but
no,
yeah,
man, no.
We're overtime anyway. So.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. Let me know how that goes. I want to know about that movie. But anyway, have a good movie, man. You take care.
All right. Thanks, Mac. Take care.
All righty. Okay, guys. So we got a few more questions that I'm going to go through here on this quiz, and then we're going to wrap up the show. Let's go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break before we do that, though, and we'll be right back after these messages. Do not go anywhere.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back, and I'm doing the 2016 presidential election quiz here on isidewith.com. This is the presidential election thing where you basically determine what candidate that you most closely fit to here. So we're in the immigration issues here. I'm going to go ahead and finish this quiz up here. And anyway, here. So the next question is, should immigrants to the U.S. be required to learn English? Legal immigrants, I would say yes. I typically think that they should learn the language of our country. I actually think that we should have an official language here of English. That's my personal opinion. There is such a thing as national identity. As much as the left would like to have you believe, we are here. Again, we talked about American exceptionalism. We are here because we believe certain things, and one of these things is the Constitution, some values that we all typically agree on, individual responsibility, individual rights, those kind of things. So I think there should be a certain amount of assimilation that is required for somebody that comes here. And one of those things is simple enough: learn a freaking language. I think that's an easy one. So anyway, the options here are yes. Should immigrants to the U.S. be required to learn English? Yes. No. No, America has and always will be a melting pot of diversity. No, but remove multilingual translations from government documents and services? Yes. And remove multilingual translations from government documents and services? Yes. But the government should provide free language learning courses. I'm just going to go with yes. They should. Immigrants to the U.S. should be required to learn English. Yes. Should children of illegal immigrants be granted citizenship? Okay, let's see. We got yes, no, yes if they were born here, yes, but it should not grant their parents citizenship. Yes, but after they turn 18 and apply for citizenship. Yes, but after 4 years of military service or earning a college degree. Yes, and abolish all national borders. No, all illegal immigrants should be deported. Okay. This is going to sound probably pretty harsh, but I'm not necessarily for for us to go out and increase the police state and try to catch the people that are here. I think that if we stumble across people that are here illegally, they should be deported, and they should never be allowed to come back. And I personally, I don't really care if you were born here or not. So I think that all illegals should be deported. I don't think that even the Constitution, the birthright citizenship, this has been misapplied, and there is constitutional argument whether or not, because again, no other nation, no civilized nation in the world has the idea that if just because you're born there, you're a citizen. You can't do that anywhere else, but yet America is the only one. And there's constitutional arguments that can be made on whether or not birthright citizenship was actually the intention or not. But I digress. I said no, all illegals should be deported. Anyway, I happen to think that we should really focus on, as I've mentioned before, eliminating the reasons for them coming here and staying here in the first place. Make it harder for them to stay here and allow them to self-deport. That's what I would support. Anyway, should illegal immigrants be offered in-state tuition rates at public colleges within their residing states? The options are yes, no, yes as long as they can pay taxes, yes and grant financial assistance and scholarships, yes but do not grant financial assistance and scholarships, no, they should pay the same rates of out-of-state students, no, and illegal immigrants should be deported. I'm going to go with that one as well. Again, no, they should be deported. Again, if you're here legally, you're in violation of our laws, you got to go. I don't think that you should be getting special rates. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're giving people special rates who are here illegally. They are here illegally. Unbelievable. And talking about scholarships and grants, unbelievable that somebody would talk about giving money to somebody who broke the law to get here or is breaking the law currently by being here. I support immigration. I think that legal immigration is great, but illegal immigration is not. Anyway, so should illegal immigrants working in the U.S. be granted temporary amnesty? Let's see here. Yes, no, but allow them to stay. No, remove them from the U.S. No, find companies that employ illegal immigrants. Yes, create a simple path to citizenship for nonviolent criminals. Yes, but only if they pay taxes. My answer, again, the question was, should illegal immigrants working in the U.S. be granted temporary amnesty? I say no, find companies that employ illegal immigrants. Should law enforcement be allowed to detain illegal immigrants for minor crimes so that federal immigration authorities can take them into custody? Okay, should law enforcement be allowed to detain illegal immigrants for minor crimes so that federal immigration authorities can take them into custody? Okay, I'm going to say yeah. Yeah, they committed a crime. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's minor or major. You're allowed to be detained. And it's also a crime for you to be here illegally. So federal immigrant, yes, all illegal immigrants should be turned over to the federal authorities and deported. That's where I stand on it. It's pretty clear cut. Come here, immigrants, come here all you want, but come here legally, come here lawfully, and we should, as a society, try to make that process a little more streamlined. But also, I think we should be selective in who we allow in. Make sure that the people we're bringing in are going to be a benefit to society by creating jobs or filling jobs where we desperately need people in. Jobs that are in high demand that we lack the people to fill those positions. But to allow an influx of unskilled laborers, that is extremely detrimental to the unskilled laborers here in America, who they're already at a demand deficit because they don't have a skill that is in demand other than just their labor. So it's something that we need to stop. Anyway, last question here. Where do you side on on science issues? Should the government fund space travel? Yes, no. Yes, and drastically increase NASA's current budget. No, fund robotic and satellite missions, but leave human space travel to private companies. No, and restrict NASA's budget to only military and defense missions. No, the government should not fund any space exploration missions. No, we should focus on saving the Earth instead of leaving it. No, not until we drastically decrease our federal deficit. Okay, so I actually don't have any issue with the federal government looking into space exploration, but I happen to agree with the last option of no, not until we drastically decrease our federal deficit. I don't think that we can really justify continuing space travel programs, from the federal government's perspective, with $18 trillion in debt. I don't think it's moral for us to accumulate this kind of debt while still doing other programs that are non-essential. So, though I believe that one day space travel will become an essential part of our life, I don't think that the federal government should be doing. Now, with that said, I think that there should be less regulations surrounding this. That way, private companies can get involved in this process. And I want to get to that before we end today's show. I just hit the show my results button. They're matching me with the candidates here. We'll see which one they match me with here. 30, 40, 60%, 70% done. Here we go. Drum roll. All right, I am 93% with Rand Paul. Let's see here. I side with Rand Paul on most 2016 presidential election issues. Then it's Carly Fiorina. Then Ted Cruz. Let's see. Rand Paul's at 93%. Carly Fiorina 90%. Ted Cruz 89%. Yeah, so then Marco Rubio, 87, Ben Carson, 86, Donald Trump, 82. Yeah, right. I don't stand with Donald Trump on hardly any of these issues. Jeb Bush, 80%. Yeah, right. This is ridiculous. And then 19% Hillary Clinton and 11% Bernie. Bernie Sanders. Come on, Mac. Only 11%. What's your deal? So anyway, Rand Paul. He's probably not going to get elected. Right now, Ted Cruz, my guy. Right now, I'm liking Ted Cruz. Now, I think he's in a perfect position to win. I think that he's going to do pretty well. And if you are noticing the polls, he's been doing pretty well. He's obviously not had the uptick that Ben Carson has, but I think he's perfectly positioned to win. And I'm really looking forward to there being a clear choice between a conservative, liberty-oriented guy or girl, Carly Fiorina. She's not too bad. I don't have any real issues with her. I still have to look into her a little bit more, but I'm more inclined to vote for Ted Cruz than I would be for Carly Fiorina. And I think that a lot of people who say, I would do Ted Cruz, I would vote for him, but I don't think he has a chance. They need to get over that. Get over the whole idea that he doesn't have a chance, because the only reason he doesn't is because people think that he doesn't have a chance and they won't vote for him. So vote for Ted Cruz if that's your guy, if that's who you really want. I like Ted. That's who I would vote for if I was voting today. But, I think he represents the clearest choice between, actual liberty principles and socialism. Are free markets or socialism? Which of these do we want to choose now? I want this choice now. Let's come up with this fork in the road. Are we going to go socialism, or are we going to stay capitalist? Are we actually going to get rid of crony capitalism and actually get to real capitalism, where the government isn't creating monopolies through colluding with private companies? Are we going to finally see free markets? Let's have this choice now. Do you want more corruption, more corporatism through the Hillary regime, or do you want to lead to free markets with Ted Cruz? I would love that choice. I think that's a good idea. Anyway, so that's where I stand on this thing here. On this, I side with 93% for Rand Paul. That's pretty close. I'd really like to see where this would fit into the party here. I'm going over to the. Okay, here we go. So my according to my polls here, party, I side with Republicans on most political issues. That's actually really surprising. I bet that has to do with the immigration policies that I have. I bet you. Let's see here. Republicans on economic, immigration, yep, social, environmental, domestic policies, foreign policy, education, science, and electoral issues. 95%. For libertarians, I side 94% on economic, social, environmental, domestic policy, healthcare, education, and science issues. See, it's so funny that this thing is set up to where it's like there's only a 1% difference between Libertarian and Republican, which is pretty far from the truth here. They also say I'm 90% with the Constitutional Party and 16% with Democrats. So anyway, I want to know what your guys' results are. Please let me know. Message me on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can share my result or share your results with me. Let me know where you stand on that. I'm actually going to share my results as well. I'm happy to read your guys' results and see where you guys fit in on this. Anyway, before we take off for the day, I want to actually cut to one more topic here that I think is important that we get to here, and this is Virgin Galactic space travel. All right, this is a private company. Virgin Galactic is a company that aims to offer suborbital flights into space to paying customers in the next few years. This is an article on space.com written by Elizabeth Howe titled Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson Space Tourism Company. So this company is run by Richard Branson. He's the guy who has Virgin Mobile. He's a Virgin Mobile guy. He's a British aerospace and music entrepreneur. The start date for flights has been pushed back several times. Branson originally predicted that Virgin Galactic would be flying customers into space by 2007. Development headaches at a 2007 fatal explosion during a ground test and a tragic test flight crash in October 2014 are some of the things that have delayed the work. So one of the things that I actually, excuse me, I'm actually interested in is that there was this is all basically private entrepreneurship, and people say, there's no way that we could build roads without governments. Well, people are trying to build spacecraft to get us into outer space, suborbital flights. If we can do that, we can do anything without the government. Now, where I have to also point out is that with the spacecraft situation that they have, that they've already developed different spaceships. These companies, the Virgin Galactic, the next step they were trying to do was to find a launching area. And in December 2005, the state of New Mexico officially offered Virgin Galactic a taxpayer-funded $225 million facility, Spaceport America, where the company could put its world headquarters and send flights into space. So they took something that was being done on its own through private corporations, and now this is where crony corporatism falls into play. I understand why the government of New Mexico offered this. Obviously, the prestige of having this location is probably one thing. Tourism, where people go, they're going to go to New Mexico to spend their money on this thing, and these people are probably pretty wealthy that are coming into town to fly into space. So maybe they're spending money in the local community as well, and blah 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 blah. And then in addition to that, the jobs that are created from this company. They'll be employing people. I'm sure they look at this as an infrastructure investment. However, with the fact that this company is getting special favors from the government through the taxpayer tills, they are essentially subsidizing them and picking winners and losers. Now, this company has an advantage over any other company that would be doing the same thing in the same area. Granted, this isn't really something that's very prevalent right now, space travel. But as things continue, you will see companies that have these footholds where they have a $225 million facility that's paid for out of the taxpayer dollar. They don't have to cover that expense. It's easier for them to survive than any competition that they would have to do this on their own. Now, if everything was fair, they would have to pay for their own facility, pay for their own research, pay for everything is on their own, and therefore, who could really blame them whether or not they win or lose, they succeed or fail? It would be left to their own merit. I don't like the idea of the government stepping in and picking the winners and losers, and I don't think that's beneficial to the little guy. Now, granted, in this situation, there are really no little guys, but as this kind of technology advances, the involvement of the government is only going to stifle and hinder the small entrepreneurs rather than the big ones. So, anyway, I just want to point this out, though, and highlight this because it can be done. We can travel through space, and we would already be there. I've mentioned this before. We'd already be in space right now if it wasn't for the 500 years of the Dark Ages. And I want to see the government get out of the way because I see them as a hindrance to innovation, similar to how religion was a hindrance to science in the Dark Ages, 500 years where science was considered heresy. Well, we need the government out of our way. The answer to all of our problems is not more government, not more red tape. It's more innovation. And the only way that you can do that is by incentivizing the free market through getting the government out of it. The biggest incentive that you can provide is a fair slate, a fair game for everyone. And how do you make it fair? You don't give anyone loopholes. You don't give anyone special privileges or special treatments. That's how you make it fair. So I just wanted to point this out. Also, let's see here. We had a few other show topics. I at least want to mention a few things here. Before we go, first of all, Matt Bevin, elected governor in Kentucky. I voted for him. I'm happy with him. Now, with that said, this was a big win for the GOP, a big win. This state, by the way, Kentucky, within the past 4 decades, they've only had one other Republican. You would think that this would be a really, really red state, but it's only had, within the past 4 decades, one other Republican governor. So this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. And I am really impressed with Matt Bevin. I was reading the voters pamphlet on this. By the way, if you guys want to look up the voter pamphlet, go ahead and Google it. His answers were by far the best out of the choices we had. I mean, he kept talking about free markets, and that sold me. He was the only one, by the way, out of our choices that was against the minimum wage. So I have to say, I'm really excited to see Matt Bevin as the governor of Kentucky, and hopefully, I'm really hoping that we can get constitutional carry here in the state, and I'm going to be working toward that end, and I hope that he will as well. So I'm going to see what we can do and maybe get him involved in that. Anyway, before we go, I just want to mention Ohio's legislative efforts on marijuana legalization. They did the initiative ballots process, and they were voted on issue 2 and 3. Issue 2 was to prevent a monopoly through initiative ballot process, citizens initiative ballot processes. And issue 3 was to establish a monopoly of 10 facilities with exclusive commercial rights to produce marijuana and legalize up to a certain amount. Anyway, Ohio, they did what I was asking them to do last week, and I'm sure it wasn't because of me, but anyway, last week I said vote yes on issue 2, no on issue 3. They did. They voted down issue 3. Marijuana is not legal still in Ohio, and the reason why is not because people, again, you're going to hear stuff on the far right saying that, this just proves that this is not a settled issue. The rest of the states, you're not just mopping up the rest of the states. No. It's only a matter of time. 10 years, 15 years from now, every state in the union practically, I'd be willing to bet, will have marijuana legalized. I have no doubt of that. But they did this wrong. They tried to create a monopoly and give exclusive commercial rights to one particular company. And I think the voters saw through it, and the voters didn't want to help establish a monopoly. So they realized that they can try again next year, and that's exactly what they're going to do. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, give a shout out to Ohio. Good job, guys. I'm really happy and proud of you guys for not establishing a monopoly through the government in order to get marijuana legalized. I think you guys did the right thing, and better luck next time. Anyway, with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. I certainly appreciate you all tuning in. And again, we broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I want to say thank you to Mark Delphine, our intern, for joining us and taking the quiz with us. I had a lot of fun with that process. By the way, guys, if you have your quizzes, your results, please send them to me on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow or at Twitter, on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow. Anyway, and you can check us out at our website, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's our hub. That's where we do, the majority of our stuff there. And as I said, we broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that is every Sunday. You can check us out on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on there if you would. We're on iTunes. If you follow us on there and leave us a review, I certainly would appreciate that. And in addition to that, we, again, Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.